Go ahead and call the regular meeting of March 10th, 2015 to order. With us today, we have the Reverend Tom Winter from Elwood Park Baptist Church, who's going to give us our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Holy God, we thank you for another day. We don't know what it holds, but we know that you hold it. We thank you for each breath that we take. Lord, I thank you for the men and women before me and those behind me, Lord, that make up the working force politically and functionally of our county. Lord, we have 35 items on the agenda today and a whole bunch of attachments. A lot of ideas and opinions and agendas. Lord, but yours is the one we need to follow. Lord, I pray for our country. Oh, Lord, how we need your touch, your forgiveness, and then your blessing. I pray, Lord, for every leader in our country, every principality, every parish, every county, every city, every home. We need you, Lord. Again, Lord, help us to look to you, to find direction and prosperity. Forgive us of our sins. And again, we thank you, Lord, for this day. It's the only one we have so far. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have one item, item number 35, that is on time certain for 10 a.m. Are there other changes to the agenda?
Yes, there are. Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
To the consent agenda under Property Management, item number 19, purchase agreement between Catalino Property 1 LLC and Manatee County for the tax collector adjunct location located at 3500 9th Street West, Bradenton, Florida. We request that be deferred till April 7th, 2015. And under Public Works, item number 26, purchase of 4 low-floor clean diesel buses for transit. We request that be deferred till March 24th, 2015. Those are the proposed changes.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go ahead then and move to our first item, which is awards. The Employee of the Month, David Simpson. If staff would like to come forward.
Good morning, Ron Chulaf for Public Works. It's with great pleasure I introduce David Simpson, 18 years with MCAT. Anyone you talk to about David will just say, what a gentleman, what a nice guy. Knows everybody on his route. We spoke about that yesterday afternoon. It's phenomenal. And I'm not going to steal any thunder from his division manager, so with that, I'll turn it over to Bill Steele.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tremendous honor today to recognize Dave Simpson. As Ron mentioned, he's a longtime transit operator. He typically drives the Route 8 in Onico. One of the things you know about Dave is he knows all his passengers and they know him. They're very concerned when he's not on the bus. In the transit division, he's a leader because he treats everybody with respect. He has a can-do attitude and he's a team player. We're very proud of him. In 2012, he was this close to being Driver of the Year for the state. He's that good. And when I talked to the judges, they said, man, we wanted to give it to him. So after this, I think we're going to do it again. And with that, Dave Simpson.
Good. Yay.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder either. I'm just going to say thank you, and I'm very appreciative of this award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chad has to give you.
Thank you, and I hear that
And he comes from a good family.
transit throughout the country, numbers are up. I think some of you might have seen that article in the paper, so. All right, moving on to proclamations. Can I have a motion for approval of proclamations?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, so motion passes. So the first proclamation that we have is National Safe Place Week, March 15th through 20th.
Come on down to accept this proclamation for National Safe Place Week. You want to take a picture?
She can talk too.
Good, thank you. Well, it's a long one, so you have a lot to be thankful for. So the proclamation, whereas National Safe Place Week brings public awareness to the Safe Place program that has helped more than 285,000 young people in crisis since the program was developed in 1983, and it is an opportunity to recognize more than 19,000 businesses and thousands of volunteers nationally who give their time, resources, and energy to make our country a safer place for young people. And whereas since 2005, more than 7 million youth have been reached through National Safe Places Building a Safety Net for Youth campaign, familiarizing them with the Safe Place sign and providing them with information about how to seek help in order to stay safe. And whereas the Safe Place program, operated by Family Resources, began in Manatee County more than 12 years ago and has served as many as 200 young people each year, providing a safe haven from various negative influences such as child abuse, substance abuse, depression, and crime. And whereas the success of Safe Place is based on public-private collaborations between businesses, school systems, fire departments, law enforcement, and a network of volunteers. And whereas the Safe Place program is committed to protecting the young people of Manatee County with designated locations where they can get information and immediate care at businesses and community buildings such as fire stations, libraries, and community centers, and by offering short-term housing at neighborhood locations where trained volunteers are available to counsel and advise young people seeking assistance and guidance. And whereas the Safe Place program must meet performance standards relative to outreach and community relations to receive direct federal assistance as set forth in the Runaway and Homeless Youth Act, and whereas increased awareness will encourage more communities to establish safe place locations where young people can readily access the help they need, and whereas this year Safe Place will celebrate 30 years of helping young people in crisis and strengthening the national safety net for youth. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that this week of March 15 through 20, 2015, shall be known, designated, and set aside as National Safe Place Week in Manatee County, Florida, and that the Board calls upon the people of Manatee County and interested groups to promote awareness of and volunteer involvement in the Safe Place program, and to observe the week with appropriate ceremonies and activities adopted with a quorum this voting day of 10th of March, 2015. Your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Tania Rumpf. I'm the program director for Manatee Programs Family Resources. Family Resources would like to thank the Manatee County government for ongoing support of our programs and our youth and families in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Next up, we have Florida Surveyors and Mappers Week. Surveyors, come forward. There's a few.
Proclamation, Board of County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida.
Whereas surveyors and mappers are counted among the founding leaders of our country and were instrumental in the formation of the layout of property boundaries in the United States, which have provided our citizens the enjoyment of property ownership. And whereas George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and other former presidents of the United States served their fellow colonists as surveyors, and whereas the citizens of Florida recognize the valuable contributions of the surveying and mapping profession to history, development, and quality of life in Florida and the United States of America, and make important decisions based on the knowledge and expertise of licensed surveyors and mappers. And whereas the surveying and mapping profession requires special education, training, the knowledge of mathematics, the related physical and applied sciences, and the requirements of law for evidence. And whereas surveyors and mappers are uniquely qualified and licensed to determine and describe land and water boundaries for the management of natural resources and protection of private and public property rights. And whereas the continual advancements in instrumentation have required the surveyor and mapper not only to be able to understand and implement the methods of the past, but also to learn and employ modern technology in finding solutions to meet the challenges of the future. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that March 15th through 21st, 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Florida Surveyors and Mappers Week in Manatee County, Florida, and recognize the many contributions and the ongoing dedication of surveyors and mappers to the citizens of Florida and the United States. Adopted with a quorum present and voting today, March 10th, 2015. Signed by Chairman Betsy Benek.
On behalf of surveyors who work here in Manatee County, my name is Todd Boyle. I'm the county surveyor, and this year I happen to be the president of the Florida Surveying and Mapping Society. I had hoped for a larger showing of surveyors, but it's actually probably a good sign if surveyors are too busy out working, hopefully making money, that they can't fit this into their schedule. So, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is National Agriculture Week.
It is, it really is, you're right.
Proclamation, Board of County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida. Whereas the prosperity and the well-being of the citizens of Manatee County are highly dependent upon the cooperation, mutual understanding, and respect between our agricultural producers and the urban segment of our population. And whereas Manatee County's agriculture and related industries is one of our largest industries, providing food, jobs, and an estimated $2.4 billion annually in total economic impact in our county. And whereas 313,000 acres, over half of the land in Manatee County, is used for agriculture. And whereas the general public of Manatee County has a great stake in a healthy and productive agriculture industry. And whereas approximately 35,000 acres of vegetables are grown annually at an economic impact of over $484 million. 197,000 acres of livestock are produced at a value of over $35 million, and Manatee County ranks 13th in the state for ornamental nursery production, which brings in another $35 million annually. And whereas tomatoes are king, with approximately 16,500 acres produced annually. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County that March the 22nd through the 29th, 2015, shall be known, designated, and set aside as Agriculture Week in Manatee County, Florida, and all citizens are urged to recognize the outstanding contributions agriculture has made to our lives, our economy, and our community. Adopted with a quorum present and voting this 10th day of March 2015, Board of Manatee County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida, Betsy Benek, Chairman. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Kennedy. I am the Division Manager of the Agriculture and Extension Service here in Manatee County. And I just want to take a couple of moments to thank all of the agriculturalists that we have, not just in our county, but in the United States. Every November, we stand up here and we talk about Farm City Week and how important agriculture is to Manatee County. But we don't often just take the time to talk about how important it is to not just people in Manatee County, but people all over the country, all over the world. American farmers feed millions and millions and millions of people around the world. And I don't think that we take the proper time to appreciate that. We go to the supermarket and the food is just there. We go to the mall and the clothes are just there. And we go to the pharmacy and the medications are just there. And we don't think that, well, all of this wouldn't be possible without farmers. So please, the next time you're at the grocery store or you're buying that blouse or you're getting that prescription, take a moment to just thank a farmer. And just as a side note, those surveyors who took credit for those presidents, all those presidents were also farmers. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Samantha.
Good job.
Thanks for all you do as well, Samantha.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that any commissioner would like pulled from the consent agenda? Anything that needs to be pulled from the consent agenda? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public comment on consent agenda at this time. I know some folks have signed up to speak. Is there anyone like to come forward on the consent agenda items? Well, Mr. Gibolina, you have signed up to speak about a few of the consent agenda items. Please come forward. As you know, under our new procedures, you get to speak for 3 minutes per item, but a total of 10 for consent agenda items. So please address any consent agenda item.
10 minutes.
State total 10 minutes. Please state which item you're addressing so that we can keep track.
I'm going to set that to 10 minutes.
No, we're just going to keep, well, why don't you do that? Go ahead and set it to
we'll do
10
that.
minutes. That's probably, we haven't totally done this before. This is our first time, so we'll see how it goes. So 3 minutes per item, 10 minutes total.
All right, my name is Glenn Gibolina. I'm a taxpayer and resident of Manatee County. And for the record, I doubt if I can get through in 10 minutes all the deficiencies in this agenda, but I will certainly try.
Thank you.
Let's start with number 7. Now, I've talked and made several requests on the warrant list from the county. What is the big deal of putting the warrant list on the agenda? I've asked Mr. Hunsinger to do it for several times. It's 40 pages long. Don't you think the citizens have a right to know about $38 million that this county spends? It's a keynote. It's going from the clerk's webpage to put it on the agenda. Now, I would like to see it on the agenda so I don't have to quit switching screens. That's part of the administration's job that it hasn't been doing. I think it's important that it needs to be up there. So, hopefully I will see it on there next time. Let's talk about items 9, 10, and 11. These are fines that have been greatly reduced. And you talk about the value, Vanessa, about keeping the neighborhood clean and safe and all these code enforcement stuff. Here's the problem that I have. These foreclosures go into foreclosure. Now you've got the banks, okay, that take over. That's been bank-owned for 2 years. They haven't boarded it up. They have not made the necessary repairs. They have done nothing. Yet they prance in here, 2 years later, oh, please forgive me on this $30,000 fine. You guys write it off. I think there's a real miscommunication between code enforcement and the banksters that refuse to do anything to keep our neighborhoods on the same page. 2012, that's when the bank took over. And the only reason they came to you is because they found a short sale. That policy has got to stop. So they let the property in our neighborhood go to hell for 2 or 3 years, and once they finally get a short sale, oh, we'll send in a contract and repair the roof or do that. But by the way, we only want to pay 10 cents on the dollar with the fines, and that's what you've done. So that policy, again, that's been foreclosed. From January 2014 to this year, they have done nothing other than come to code enforcement and get a $27,000 reducement in their fines. They should have been doing something last year. That's on that one. Another bankster, 2012, 17 months. 17 months that property sat in disrepair, code enforcement. They own the property. They're responsible. I saw one in there. Oh, well, there's a tenant in there. Well, guess what? When you own the property, you're the landlord. You tell the tenant to clean up, or you send a crew out there to get it. They don't do that. They sit on the property for 17 months in that one particular. All I'm saying is that when code enforcement puts a lien on it, they need to tell the bank, and particularly when the bank takes over, that they should get their butt in gear and clean up that neighborhood. It's their responsibility. The poor guy's already lost his home. He's done. The new guys that come in here should not wait for a short sale to clean it up. All right. Move on here to 19. This is the sale of the building across the old
Number
ABC.
19 was pulled and will be coming back before us on April 7th. So if you
Oh.
hold your comments till then, there will be some changes.
Well, I hope so, because we paid $1.3 million over the assessed value. So I want to know what kind of deal the taxpayers got on that.
Yeah, there's been nothing done at this point.
And there shouldn't be anything
The
done.
point of order?
Just a point of order, I believe, because it's on the agenda, if he does wish to comment about it, he can still comment about it. He doesn't have to hold his comments.
Great. I'll bring it up. Okay, so I did a little homework here. Back in 2006,
I think that's
that was appraised for $1.2 million. 2006. Last year, it was appraised. My notes here. $1.275 million. It went down $6,000. So my question: why did the citizens of this county have the privilege to pay an additional $1.3 million over the assessed value? How does it go from $1.2 million in less than 1 year? You guys cut a deal for $2.3 million. I think you need to pull this agenda. You need to go back and sharpen your pencils. We should get a hell of a lot better deal than what this is.
Watch your language.
Well, you know, we could say hell, we could say we could say other words up here, and I apologize for that, and I will watch my language.
Thank
So,
you.
that point is, that item, the taxpayers are not getting a good deal. And as far as this other company that just bought it a year ago, it seems kind of suspicious to me that all of a sudden now he's making $1.3 million on the county over a year. I just be very cautious of that deal, and I'm not happy with it. I can tell you that right now. The taxpayers should not be paying that kind of money for that building. So, can you ask me how we got to that assessment? Can anybody answer that question?
We will not answer questions while you're giving your comments, so please continue to give your comments.
Okay, well, that certainly needs to be looked into. So if anybody should have made the money on it was Mr. Parole, who was paying $32,000 a year for the last 9 years in taxes. So, all right, well, let's move on to number 22. Again, this is the EMT billing. How can there be such a disparity between what Medicaid pays and what the county has to make up the difference? That's a lot of money, and that's every month. So I have a problem with that. 23, again, the taxpayers, Manatee County, are paying for the tourists to go to the beaches. Why are my taxpayer dollars paying for an officer out on the beaches? I would certainly think that that would come from the city or the beaches or certainly the Tourist Development Fund. I don't think that the citizens should have to pay for an officer that we do not currently enjoy. I certainly, none of my neighbors from New Pierce certainly enjoy that. All right, so where are we at here? Let's try, that's another one. Now, let's go to item number 29. Once again, the guy wants water at his house. The house is built 1931. This guy has been paying taxes for 84 years. Now he wants some water, and you hammer him on an 8% juice loan on his $2,500 hookup. This is not the first time I've brought this to the board. I think it is, it's unconscionable that a taxpayer that's been paying for 84 years, you can't cut him a better deal. I mean, I certainly think that the county is getting better than 8% on their money. I think they should loan it out at 0, or if they're going to make it a contract, make it at 0.5%. 8% for a guy that's been contributing to this neighborhood for years and years and years, it's unconscionable. I think that we can do a better job. So I kept it under 10 minutes only because the one item was pulled. But I'll be back for my 10-minute future agenda items for sure. So I thank you for your time. All these issues need to be addressed, especially the cleanup from the banks. I don't think our neighbors in our neighborhood, just because it's foreclosed by the bank, that they don't have a duty or an obligation to the neighbors in the neighborhood to keep that property as nice as the neighborhoods around them. So those banksters, you need to send a letter. And I think once you send out a lien notice, doesn't the bank get notified anyways? I'm sure they do. Also, often these notices go out and a day or a month later, the bank takes over. There has to be more communication between code enforcement and the banks and say, you're the new kid on the block, you're the new owner. We're not going to wait till a short sale and let this house look like this for a year or two. You need to do something now. You need to clean it up, board it up, whatever you have to do, as we had the same obligation that we were giving the homeowner before they were foreclosed on. So I think you need to send a message to the banks that no more they're going to be able to walk in a year or 2 years later and pay 10 cents on the dollar on the fines that should not even be there if they'd have done their job right and had any responsibility to the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward, state your name for the record and what item you are speaking on so we can be sure to follow along.
Barbara Hines, and I wasn't planning on speaking, but
We will reset the clock. Sorry.
thank you. I wasn't planning on speaking, but Mr. Gibolina did bring up Holmes Beach. And I want to remind you that Kingfish is county property, and that because of public safety and the fact that the sheriffs can't get over the bridge in case of an emergency, especially during this time of year, Holmes Beach has been providing police service. And quite frankly, I think the $10,000 is woefully inadequate for the number of times that I have seen our police cars and trucks out on Kingfish. Holmes Beach Police do a great job, and they deserve, the taxpayers of Holmes Beach deserve to be compensated for the time that is taken on county business, and it is county business. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to come speak before the board on any items that are on the consent agenda? Please come forward now. This is your time to speak on consent agenda items only. Okay, seeing no one coming forward. Commissioner Whitmore, I have you up on the board.
Yeah, just a few things on Glenn's comments. Manatee Beach is being patrolled by Holmes Beach. That's their jurisdiction. Kingfish is now Manatee County. It was Holmes Beach. No, it was Holmes Beach for many, many years. Then when I first got on the board, the majority of the commission, I didn't vote for it, took Kingfish back, and it was county property. And then now, it was Holmes Beach property, and now it's county property again. But it is in the jurisdiction of the city of Holmes Beach.
The opposite.
Well, it's in Manatee County with the jurisdiction of Holmes Beach right now.
It was county,
Right.
and the city asked to have the county give the property to the city for city jurisdiction.
Right.
And the county gave it to the city for their jurisdictional purposes. It is owned by FDOT. We have a boat ramp there, but it is in the city's jurisdictional purview today,
And we manage the boat ramp.
and we manage the boat ramp.
Right, okay.
But when it was county property, the sheriff patrolled.
With FDOT, right, I mean the highway patrol, you're right. So 10,000, and they were asking like 90,000 this year to patrol, so 10,000. I think that they deserve that. The clerk of the court site, I did send a request to the clerk, because at one point we did have the warrant list on it, and for some reason it's not on, so we'll find out why.
Point of clarification, Madam Chair, I've just confirmed with the clerks here, there is a link on our electronic website that
Right.
takes any interested citizen directly to the clerk's website to look at the most current warrants list. So with the click,
Yeah.
a single click of a mouse, you can hit on that link and go directly to the clerk's website. I can't imagine a higher level of transparency, frankly. So it is a complaint that we've heard time and again from this particular citizen. It is a complaint that is completely meritless.
Right, or if the clerk, and the clerk doesn't have to do this, at one point the clerk did put the link on our agenda.
It is on the agenda, ma'am.
It is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Glenn, you're gonna have to look that up.
The link is on the electronic agenda.
The special magistrate is one that determined the fees of the 3 properties that we went through. It wasn't us, it wasn't our staff at Nilly, it was a special magistrate. And also the water hookups, you know, City of Holmes Beach, we hooked up the whole city, the street of Peacock Lane in Holmes Beach that had always been sewer for 60 years. And the neighbors had to all get along and agree to sign up and pay their share. Also on 87th Street Court Northwest, I had some friends that did that years ago in Bradenton. There is a process. This gentleman did not have his house on the sewer system. There is a process, and everybody, I don't care how old you are, if you want to go through that process, you can't be selective on your rules or your laws, so. Unless you want to maybe get a collection form, help them pay for it. I mean, that's the only other way I could figure it out. You got to be fair to everybody, and that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, that they could get a loan or, you know, some kind of bridge, and you have.
Just a point of clarification from the legal side of things. Our bond covenants, we borrow money in order to expand our utility system. This county has a superlative bond rating on Wall Street. Our bond covenants prohibit us from reducing or waiving facility investment fees, connection fees, line extension fees. What they do allow is for us to extend a helping hand to customers that are coming online for the first time by entering into a time payment agreement. So again, the citizen is completely off base when he suggests that we should be extending these loans at something near a 0% interest rate, or that we should somehow be waiving or reducing these fees. We are prohibited by our bond covenants from doing so, and that is the reason why this utility system enjoys such a superlative rating in terms of our bond rating on Wall Street.
Thank you. And regarding the 8%, geez, I wish Manatee County did get 8% on our investments, because I sit on the Florida Investment Trust, and we're happy if we get 1 or 2%, because we have to, you know, invest in very, very, very safe assets, and we have strict guidelines on that. Regarding code enforcement, I see Mr. Bernard here and his team that, you know, they have adopted the vacant and abandoned property registry in the last year, and I don't know if he wanted to comment on how many properties they have, the banks have registered, and I see Jeff here from code enforcement. He might want to share some information with us. But, you know, as Carol said, the magistrate sets the figures. Most times we're happy to accept 10% because we're not going to get anything, because we're way down the totem pole in liens, and so 10% is better than nothing. So, but you're working very hard.
Correct, and we probably have, I'm sorry, Jeff, with code enforcement, probably have close to 800 properties registered now, which is something we didn't have in place back when these cases were first initiated.
And how
So-
long a period of time?
I'm sorry?
How long a period of time has this been activated, the registry?
Since October, I believe, of last year.
Okay, so that's huge. Appreciate it. A lot. Yeah, thank you. And I was down at Whitfield last night, and they were singing your praises last
Good.
night. Yes. And also, just regarding the 10 minutes, we had adopted that, and a couple people have emailed me, and they were upset that, and I know Commissioner Whitmore didn't want the 10 minutes on consent, but, the majority had agreed on that. And I told that person that, we'll watch it and see how it goes, but I think it will work. I spoke with many, many other people and who are here a lot, and they think the 10 minutes is a very fair amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Commissioner Chappie.
Yes, I just want a brief comment on the interlocal agreement. Ms. Hines brought up a good point. And Glenn, I'd hope you might consider and look into it a little bit, being on an islander for so many years. In the cities, all that county property, in Braden Beach, it's 1.5 miles of beachfront property. In the city of Holmes Beach, it's that beachfront area, Manatee Beach, and of course Kingfish boat ramp. And there's hundreds of people, thousands literally every week that visit that area, and yet the cities are responsible and obligated to patrol those areas and make sure it's a safe environment for our visitors that come there and our residents that use that on a regular basis. So I would hope you would consider that in looking through your information as a payback, or not a payback, but in a sense a return on the investment that we have there. It's very difficult for the smaller cities to have these revenue streams to pay for a lot of this service, and with the traffic that's out there, it's an incredible strain on the police departments. Thank you.
And if I could jump on that, and also the amount of property that is not taxable because
That's
we
what I
own
said,
it.
it's beachfront property.
So we don't get tax money on it.
Great points, guys. Thanks.
However, I might add that statutorily that it's not eligible for tourism funding.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. And County
That's where we
Attorney, I
need to
had you
go.
on the board. Mickey?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just a couple of remarks. I was hoping that Jeff would clarify a little further when he stepped to the podium earlier. In each of these code enforcement fine reduction matters on today's board, the property is in compliance as we speak. According to the agenda items, the properties have been brought into compliance. They were out, the violations occurred well before the bank took ownership. Furthermore, there was an implication from the podium today from the citizen that somehow we give banks special treatment, that if it's a bank-owned property, we wink and look the other way. While those words were not specifically spoken, they were clearly implied today. And I can assure this board that our code enforcement folks don't look at the identity of the property owner before determining whether to issue a citation. Doesn't matter whether it's bank-owned, doesn't matter who owns it. And I think it would be helpful if Jeff were to clarify that for us.
You're absolutely right. We don't look at that, and a lot of these were initiated prior with the previous homeowner, not with the banks. So the foreclosure process can sometimes be lengthy. It could take 6 months, or it could take 1.5 years. So until the bank usually gets title or the property is vacant, they won't go in and clean it up. And a lot of times the homeowner has such a bad taste in their mouth with the banks and everything that's going on, they're not willing to do anything either. So, moving forward in those situations, we're going to work as hard as we can with those property owners to convince them to come into compliance. So,
And compliance is our ultimate goal. We've stated that time and time again in various workshops. Fattening county coffers is not our goal.
Yeah.
Compliance is our goal.
That's all code enforcement is compliance.
correct.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
And we're doing a lot more public outreach too, so that's definitely working to our advantage. So,
Yeah, you're doing
Thank
good.
you.
A breath of fresh air.
Definitely appreciate that. And procedurally, I just want to make a couple comments. One, there is a procedure specifically for public hearings that state public comment may be limited to persons who state that they believe they cannot be available to speak on the date to which a public hearing is being continued. So I know we had the provision in public hearings that you couldn't speak twice on an item. So I was thinking he didn't have the opportunity because it does specifically state, such persons shall be allowed to make their comments at the then current meeting if there is a quorum, provided, however, that upon making their comments, such persons shall waive the right to repeat or make substantially the same presentation at any subsequent meeting on the same subject. I would like the county attorney to look and see if we have that same restriction on non-public hearing items. I did not see it, but I'm reading it quickly up here, so I would like you to look into that to see if we have the same restriction, because we also have a provision in our orderly meetings procedures about being unduly repetitious or presenting matters not relevant to the item under consideration. So my concern is if we're going to hear at every single hearing every meeting that we have, the same thing over and over and over again, do we have the ability to say that that's unduly repetitious? Because we have discussed this item in length here. We have discussed it at previous meetings at length. Staff has come forward and commented. There is always an opportunity to get with staff to understand these issues, to understand what the county is doing. But if we have to do it at every single public meeting, is there a limitation on that? So I would like to ask the county attorney to look at that and maybe let us know, if that's okay
I'll
with the
be
rest
happy
of
to
the
do
board.
that.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. All right, next up I had Commissioner Whitmore.
Well, I remember years ago when didn't get the support of McClash and all the others for the trolley. And I kept coming to the meetings over and over and over again to finally, I thought I wore them down finally. And eventually, just by weak moment at MPO meeting, it kind of got going. But I mean.
That wasn't on the agenda, was it, Carol, every single time?
No, but I brought it up on things in future agendas. And yes, it was on the agenda because it got voted down. They voted it down the first time, and I kept coming back and back and back. So, you know, I felt like I was a city commissioner then, but I felt as a whoever that I still had a right to come before my commissioners and try to get my point across. And eventually, after a couple of years, it worked. So I respect what you're doing, Mickey, but look at something like that. I just think that, again, you know, that I know I'm going to hear it every time I come up here, and I just accept it. So it doesn't bother me.
Or whatever the board's pleasure is, I'm happy to look into the matter or not, whatever the board's pleasure is.
I guess my point was that these are procedural matters that are on our consent agenda. We routinely have them on the consent agenda, these code enforcement reductions. If we're going to make, I guess, Carol, you're saying if someone comes every time and asks us to change this procedure, is what you're saying they should have the opportunity at every meeting to just ask us to change this procedure? Is that what you're saying?
Or anything, or any issue that they don't feel like that we are listening. That's the public's, you know, I'm sorry, I come at it a different way. I feel they got 3 minutes or 10 now, and feel that I'll sit here and listen to them, whatever it is.
I would agree on future agenda items, they can talk about anything they want. I was just trying to, again, try to make sure that when we have these consent agenda items, that rather than talking procedurally about how we do each one, to talk to the merits of the case. That was my thought. So I'll take any other comments from other commissioners. Commissioner DiSabatino.
I see your point to a point, but, you know, the citizens take their time to come down here because they're concerned about something or some things. And if they're taking their time to come down here out of their day, I think that they deserve their 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes to speak. So, I mean, I wouldn't direct the attorney to look into this anymore because I just think we have the right to interpret it.
Okay, Commissioner Chappie?
I'd say ditto on that. If I understand your point. It's procedures that we have to go through. It's part of our rules and regulations, but it's all related to the action that we're taking on that particular day. And if an individual wants to come forward and again make the point, I disagree with what you're doing today because of the way the requirements are. Absolutely, you have a right to do that. I do very similar on a regular basis with the Board of County Commissioners. How many times have you heard me talk about a three-way stop sign? Or how many times have you heard me talk about other stop signs at locations or bridges and fishing? And I will continue to do that when I have my time to speak.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
Yes, Madam Chair. I want to get clarity. Are you just asking for clarification for the future
even though we may agree with what you're saying, to clarification, so if anyone else comes up, it could be a lawyer that disagrees and says, this here is totally vague. I think you're asking for clarification. I have no
Yes.
problem with the county attorney looking for clarification, and I may agree with Commissioner Whitmore, but I think clarification is needed for future.
Yeah, and there were 2 points that I was requesting clarification for.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Specifically in the procedures. The first one was whether or not the same standard that applies to public hearing items for items that are to be continued applies to non-public hearing items.
And the simple answer to that question is no.
Okay.
Right, I knew that.
So answer's no, thank you. And then the second one is about being unduly repetitious, because if we hear, and I get what Carol's saying, certainly, if somebody is, wants some change, they're going to come over and over again to this board, and that's their right. At what point do we say we've already taken action, because that's the other item here, we've already taken action, and there's not going to be a change? I'm going to go ahead and drop this, because I'm listening to all of what you're saying. It's just going to be what we're going to hear, and that's fine. Commissioner Baugh.
I think it's gotten blown out of proportion. The comments that I'm hearing up here, we're not trying to change any rules that we've put in effect, but in order to follow the rules that we all voted on and put in effect, you need clarification on that. So I think everything's kind of gotten really blown out of proportion here.
Commissioner DiSabatino.
And just not to beat the dead horse, but when Commissioner Chappie said to keep bringing it up, I mean, we're talking about code enforcement today. John Barnott, every time he saw me, he ran the other way, because for 3 years I kept asking him and on camera about the vacant abandoned properties, just like Carol was not going to give up until, we got it in place. So, 10 minutes max, we're here, they're here, and I just think we just need to move on.
Okay. I also had on item number 10, Sue King signed up to speak. If you'd like to speak to that as on the consent agenda, now's the appropriate time. Okay. Don't need to come
Nobody
forward.
pulled it.
Nobody pulled it. Okay. Well, at this time, I don't see, is there anyone else that'd like to come before the board to address any of the items on the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, what's the pleasure of the board on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve
Second.
with the
With changes.
2 items pulled,
Deferred, yeah.
deferred.
Deferred. Okay. Have a motion for approval. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next up, we are on citizen comments. This is on future agenda items. So I have quite a few people signed up to speak. So I'll go ahead and call the people that have signed up to speak first. Nathan Levinson.
Nathan Levinson, District 2. I'm here to speak once again on Jerry Hill Jr., the Manatee County Animal Service officer that had broken into homes illegally, confiscating dogs illegally, attempting to dog nap Laura Logan's dog, illegally trespassing. He has done many times before and broke 3 state statutes in 2004, and again in the case of Buck and Bill, repeatedly again. Has supposedly faced termination on any repeat offense by Manatee County guidelines in your employee handbook, which has not been followed in the least, whether because of who his dad was, and this is most definitely favoritism and derelict of duty leading up to the highest chain of command. A AC officer that twice has showed immoral and unethical actions and naming a dog for shitter. Unfortunately, I don't have that one. And then his second repeat offense, Lucifer, was only verbally counseled. His repeat offense yet again. This man is now the interim manager of Manatee County Animal Services. The fate and treatment of our shelter dogs has never looked scarier or more in danger. Here's Lucifer. A man that has failed at his inspections of Napiers and testified for defense no matter what excuse is given, because none is acceptable to Manatee County constituents. I have personally filed a public complaint on all of these heinous and immoral actions. And the number is 1502-0186. I have checked repeatedly on the Easy Track system since I filed. It's been a few weeks. And there is no record or any information on my complaint, and this number shows it was received and entered into your system. No phone calls or emails to ask me, inquire about anything, more derelict of duty yet again, and if I'm not mistaken, all these complaints fall into the lap of the administrator of the county. To answer James Bacon, let me put this back once again. This is the man who supposedly investigated this. And to this commission that this issue is not resolved in the slightest. The issue of Jerry Hill Jr. only being verbally counseled and putting Manatee County Animal Services into a bad light, betraying the public's trust, and willfully sabotaging any attempts at adoptions for these dogs, Lucifer and Four-Shitter. This will only be resolved when this man is terminated from Manatee County government once and for all his crimes, and there has been way too many without any accountability, civility, or ethics from the highest chain of command that has known this since every single time this man has carried out these heinous actions. There will be protests by all of the no-kill activists, and those seeking accountability and action by this commission that has not responded, acted on your sworn obligations and duties to uphold your own policies as well as federal and state laws. We will protest until this man is a distant memory and needs to be removed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Next up, I have Catherine Morningstar.
Good morning, Catherine Morningstar, and I just want to say we are, in fact, very adamant about all that Mr. Levinson talked about. This has been an ongoing problem for a number of years. The complaint is filed. We pulled it through a PRR. It's out there. So there's one complaint in his file already, 2 verbal warnings about the namings of the dog, which I understand you don't want to hear that at this particular meeting, no bad language. And lastly, the last complaint by Ms. Logan, and I've read that complaint. And henceforth, she was told that if she had no trespassing signs on her lawn, it was perfectly legal for animal services officers to go on the property, even though the dog had absolutely no resemblance to the stray that Mr. Hill was looking for. The dog was white. The stray was black with little gray paws. No similarity whatsoever. Jasmine in her yard had on an electric collar, which is within the parameters of Manatee County guidelines. This is Jazzy. She looks nothing like the stray that was in Mr. Hill's area that he was looking at. So I do not understand how he was going up to their front door, which is where Jazzy is standing approximately 10 feet, if not less, in front of their front door. He approached with a catch pole, and he had another person with him.
Dog they were looking for.
Thank you. No similarity whatsoever. Fortunately for Jasmine, the Logans were home. There was no knock on the door. Their garage was open. They were home. All of a sudden, they look out their front window. He's got a catch pole chasing Jasmine, going towards Jasmine. Thankfully, Mr. Logan was home and went out and intercepted before Jasmine was confiscated. This needs to stop. This man needs to be held accountable. I'm holding you to your mantra of accountability, civility, and ethics. This man needs to be gone as interim shelter manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Debbie Glow.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Glow, and I'm a citizen of Manatee County. And my first remark is I totally agree with what Mr. Levinson said. Jerry Hill has to go. There's no room in animal shelter for a person that acts like this. This is totally disgusting the way this man has been able to confiscate animals and name the animals, and it's up to you guys, to y'all. I'm a Chicago person, so it's you guys, to make sure that this man is terminated as soon as possible. The one thing I want to talk about today, and this just came up this morning because I opened up my computer, and every time I open up my computer, I get really upset about this. So I'm going to put this up here and hope you guys can see it. Okay? Okay. Do y'all know what this is? This is what we call a rescue only, but what we call really like a kill list. On this is 17 dogs. 2 of the dogs I know, Maple, which is the third dog here, she's been adopted, and the little boy down here who's blind has been adopted. He's been pulled by, I think, one of the senior sanctuaries. But the rest of the dogs have to be out. If you see on the side, it says deadline, 3/12/15. If we don't get them out of there, what's going to happen to them? We all know what's going to happen to them. I want to just go through a few of them. If you see at on the second row, there's 5 bait dogs. Some of these bait dogs have, some of these bait dogs have been assessed, and they could be rehabbed. When we have some of them out already to other people, some other bait dogs, and they're doing wonderful. It just takes a lot of loving TLC, and you really need to know what you're doing. The brown on the upper side, he's scared, but he's been evaluated, and all he needs is rehab. And I could go through all these dogs, but you've got a dog on here with ear mites. I myself have taken care of dogs with ear mites. I had a Labrador and a standard poodle, and they got them all the time. I took care of them. So why does a rescue need to take these dogs? An adopter that is familiar with this kind of thing could come in and take this dog out of there. And then we've got 2 Demodex dogs. There's no reason a rescue should have to be responsible for Demodex dogs. I just adopted one about 6 months ago. When I got her, she was the most pathetic thing you ever saw. Now, my group can see what she is. We named her Alex. Now she's AKA Monkey because she jumps and plays, and she's just a loving animal. And I just wanted to bring this up, that this list, somehow we've got to really work on this list. Thank you.
All right, thank you for sharing that with the public. I agree that we need to work on that list and see what we can do, get more dogs adopted. Up next is Agatha.
Mine is going to be short and sweet.
State your name for the record, please.
Agatha Mantanas. On Saturday evening, I was alerted to a dog that was in someone's yard. Someone had dumped it over her fence. She had 5 dogs of her own. I could tell you her name, but maybe it's not a good idea. Here, she called the city, county, not quite sure, but I think it's in Palmetto, and was told, well, we're busy right now. Open your gate so the dog can get out so your dogs don't bark. Let the dog run free. I have that dog right now because another rescue went and got the dog for me and brought it to my house. And it's a full Havanese. Point 1. Point 2, same evening later on, accident, Lakewood Ranch. A man with diabetes had 3 dogs in his car. Dogs are on the side of the road. City gets called, county. Leave them there. Sorry, can't come. Good thing that another one of our ladies was close in the area and went and got him, or they'd be dead on the side of the road. Where are we going?
Thank you. I have Jean Peelan.
Good morning. I'm Jean Palin. I'm a commissioner in the city of Holmes Beach. I've also been a volunteer foster with Underdog Rescue since 2008 and been on the Animal Services Advisory Board since 2010. Since 2011, I've been a member of the 3-person board of the No Kill Fund that was established under the Animal Network. That fund has been used exclusively to treat the medical needs of dogs and cats in animal services. So it's just been a direct contributor, basically, to animal services, dogs and cats. It's been very successful, as you know, saving hundreds of particularly dogs from being put down due to the prohibitive cost of heartworm treatment. I want to thank you all for seeing through the unwarranted attacks on the No Kill Fund and on Animal Network in general. I think there are some people, and you hear from them very often, who are very angry at past injustices, and there were injustices. They had a lot to be angry about. And but the trouble is they are now out to get anyone connected with those past, what they see as all the injustices. And sometimes they go so strongly to get people that it overshadows and takes away from the care of the dogs and cats. That, for me, was sort of the lesson of the attack on the no-kill button on the county website. So I wish I wish everybody could see the reality of the changes that have occurred at Animal Services and relationship of Animal Services to the community in the last year. And that's due to your support, and it's due to Bill Hutchison. And I used to hate going out to Animal Services for meetings, and not just because you got to see the dogs and cats in their prisons. It was also because it was an unwelcoming atmosphere. It didn't feel welcome. Volunteers didn't feel welcome. Nobody felt welcome. That is 100% turned around and changed now. And I'm so appreciative of that. By the way, I'm also a member of the Tourist Development Council, and believe it or not, it's related. It's relevant because I believe we're on the track with Animal Services and the whole community to becoming something new and different and attractive in Manatee County. So that along with our sports industry, our beaches, the vibrant downtown Bradenton, we're becoming a center of excellence for kindness to animals. And I thank you for the large part you all have played in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, I have John Favory.
First of all, my name is John Favre. I'm from Northport. I just moved from the state of Pennsylvania to the city of Northport in 2012. And also, I'd like to say good morning to the commissioners and thank you for letting me speak today. I'd like to start off, this is in regards to natural gas and oil drilling in the state of Florida. I'd like to start off with a short story, but a true story that happened in Collier County down by the Everglades in 2013. Picture yourself waking up in the morning 1,000 feet from your house and there's a gas and oil rig from your house. You had no notice, no warning, it just showed up. Then you received a letter in the mail. Not a letter that was in the mailbox, it was a hand-delivered mail from a company called Total Safety. You opened up the letter and it says, you're now in an evacuation zone. So you picture yourself, you're waking up in the morning, or in the afternoon, you get this letter and you're saying you're in an evacuation zone, not because of a hurricane, because of a natural gas company, that there was any type of an explosion that could happen close to your house. So we have to say to ourselves, who's telling the truth and what direction are we going in the state of Florida? So going back to the situation that happened in the Everglades, the people that lived in the homes down at the Everglades where the fracking was taking place, they called the police department. The police department had no idea that there was fracking being done in their county. Also, the commissioners had no aware that there was any type of fracking being done in that county. So once again, I say, who's telling the truth? If fracking is so good, why are we so secretive? Why does DEP lie? Why? Just keep in mind that DEP does work for Governor Rick Scott. Also under the Florida law, a company does not need a separate permit to perform hydraulic fracking, but it must notify the DEP to obtain a permission. A recent report from the Pennsylvania Auditor General found that the state was unprepared to oversee and enforce regulators on fracking from 2009 to 2012. So when I am asking the Manatee County Commissioners if there's any way to put on your agenda in the month of April or May to ban fracking in the state of, the county of Manatee. The reason why I say that is I'm worried about water consumption. Any fracking that's being done in the state of Florida, if there is a drought or if there's any type of drought in the state of Florida, I do not want an oil company or a natural gas company coming into Manatee County to take the water and use it for any type of fracking. Now, keep in mind, you say to yourself, well, can the county get involved to ban fracking? Keep in mind, Evans Jenny of District 99, he's a representative in the state of Florida. I got a letter from him stating that there are 7 counties that have in the process of banning fracking. So once again, I moved here to the state of Florida not to be lied to. I want to make sure, because a lot of the farmers, there was a farmer in Pennsylvania, he lost his farm. It's a 110-acre farm. And we care about Manatee, what I heard from the people, that we care about farmland. Once they come in, you won't get them out. I promise you this, and I just want Manatee County to put this on the agenda, and I thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you very much for being here today. Mr. Wheeler. Please come forward.
My name is William R. Wheeler. I'm a resident of this county. That takes care of the formalities. So most of you are familiar with me to some degree. I have a list here. Most of it I've written this morning listening to these hearings. First, I've got about 9 items on it. We're going to go fast. Fracking. I would suggest you become an expert on it, and you do it in a very big hurry. I worked for 27 years for a subsidiary of Schlumberger Oil. If you don't know who they are, you better learn. Safe place, it was discussed this morning. Safe place is not for children, in my opinion. Safe place is for any resident of Manatee County from 8 years old to an octogenarian. If an octogenarian needs help and they're lost, they should be able to go to safe place. If it is a battered wife at 46 and she needs help immediately, she should be able to go to a safe place. Now, I realize it was designed and it is for children, and it's a marvelous thing, and I am 110% for it. But understand, I hope that everybody connected with Safe Place understands that it has no gender and no age limit. Next item, just for the fun of it, I took some stuff out to E-Scrap recently, and I was given a very wonderful brochure published by Manatee County as I exited the E-Scrap out on land. And it explained more than I had ever known and found in one document. I think it's marvelous. There ought to be copies of that document available to the public in the lobby of this building and any other county court, any other building owned by this county. Filibuster, somebody brought that up a few months ago. Filibuster, to the best of my knowledge, filibusters in the United States Senate is allowed. The record is something over 24 hours. He brought a lawn chair and he bought a cooler and he settled in for something like 24 hours and 25 minutes. So it can be stopped, but it is a laborious process. Short sales with banks, that's the nightmare of every homeowners association. Anything that you can do to straighten that out would be marvelous. The mitigation of wetlands. If you start allowing wetlands to be mitigated, and I know that I have mentioned this on many occasions, you are opening the floodgates for the future. People are going to buy 10 acres out in the middle of nowhere, and then they're going out to the beach, and they're going to fill in the wetland along the very valuable property using the 10 acres they bought for nickels and dimes. That is a very dangerous thing, a path and a road to go down. Right north of Briarwood itself, it scares me badly. Polk County, I suggest that you all read Polk County's documentation on indigent care. It is probably one of the best.
You will get another 3 minutes because you are talking on more than one subject, so please reset the clock if you'd like to continue.
3 or 7?
Polk County has...
7 would probably be better, so we know exactly.
Polk County has a very complete system. You have to have an ID card to get It is in care in Polk County. The ID card is issued by a combination of remarks from your doctor and their government. It is you have to be a resident of the county, or you have to sign an affidavit that you are now going to stay a resident of their county. It's practically a boilerplate on how to do it, and it seems to have held up under the law for quite some time. What I'd like to know, having listened this morning, is who sets the rules for the magistrate? What can the magistrate do, not do? What powers does he have, not have? He seems to be this secret person off in the corner that has mysterious power over us, and none of us know what it is or where it is and how you get there. Mr. Smith, you're smiling at me again. Good morning, by the way,
Good
sir.
morning to you, sir.
As far as dogs go and the dog enforcement, I believe in the stand and ground law. You come in my yard, try to take my poodle, I'll shoot you. You try to take my poodle while I'm walking it, I'll shoot you. You turn your large dog loose and it attacks me, and I've been pulled completely off my feet, and my neighbors have come to rescue me to get me away from a dog. I've been there. I've been down that road. I normally don't carry sidearms when I walk my dog, although I do have the right to. I just carry plain old pepper gas, and they tell me that'll probably do enough damage. All I want's the dog to go away. But I feel the right that I have the right to shoot the dog if it endangers myself, either on my property or on my presence. And I know I just upset an awful lot of people. Forgive me, sir. That's about it. These are things I would like on future agendas or to be considered. I would like you to look into them. Like the magistrate. All of a sudden, the magistrate's rules, the whole animal control system is changed. Now, I'm not saying it's for the good or the bad. I'm saying let us know what's going on and who this guy is and what he's up to. Thank you. Thank you for your kindness.
Okay, thank you. Next up, I have Barbara Hines.
Barbara Hines, Holmes Beach. I strongly support what the gentleman from Pennsylvania said about fracking. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and we have a much more fragile environment, and it's much easier to destroy our environment. And you, as our county commissioners, I beg you to pass an ordinance banning fracking in Manatee County. I also agree with most of what was said by the animal advocates. I want to point out, though, that this is not something that's been dealt with, because the problems that I think it's Mantain had indicated happened this weekend and even more recently. That Havanese was dumped in someone's yard, I believe, on Saturday. And since there have been affidavits, complaints filed, and all sorts of things about Jerry Hill, it just strains credulity that this man would have been promoted and put in a position of power. My new little guy snuck out last night, and we were out looking for him. And I'll tell you, I was more afraid of Manatee Animal Services than I was afraid of anything else when I was looking for him. We found him, but David and I were terrified because they wanted to put him down when they had him before. And I have no doubt that even though this little guy is a solid citizen, that that he might have had problems. You don't get public trust back by promoting the people that cause the problems in the first place and are continuing to cause problems. I can't imagine that anybody who said open your gate and let a lost dog out, or just we're too busy to help a dog that is bleeding on the side of the road. And I have several. I didn't even.
Aware of that, ma'am.
Okay. Any the side of the road is still working, but I also have no doubt that that person is. You look at who's there, you look at who the faces are, and you look who's rewarded. And I attended part of the Napier trial. And Animal Services were the star witnesses for the Napiers. Animal Services and our county vet. Nobody from Animal Services testified for the prosecution. This should tell you something. And what I actually signed up to speak about were neighborhoods, which dovetails into the agricultural. You have turned your agricultural zones into a holding area. Month after month, I hear people talk about vacant land when it's agricultural land. You need to value what's agricultural. You also, I am pleading with you that when you have new housing developments or new developments, have your staff go out and look. When Lombard Point happened, I asked the planner afterwards, were you on the property? And she said no. She said it was too wet for a Jeep. And I said, well, you could have walked. When the massacre of the mangroves happened over on Palmasola, Joel testified that he had not been out. It seems that it's the norm. You get reports from people who don't even look. But also, you should have people assessing how many people we have and do we have an excess amount of houses? Because by building all of these new houses, we are destroying our cities. We're destroying the value of the homes that are older because people will get their brand new houses. And we're also displacing wildlife, we're killing wildlife, and we're not being good stewards of the land. Again, agricultural land is not a holding area. Putting in things like industrial as a use in agricultural, you tell me how that is compatible with organic farming. And so many of us are trying to eat more organic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, I have Mr. Giblina. Mr. Giblina says he's speaking on a lot of items.
Okay.
So let's just go ahead and we'll ask him if it's going to be more than 3. This is new. We're trying to figure out how to work it since we have expanded our ability to speak on public hearing items, but with a limit of 10. So, Mr. Giblina, do you think you'll be speaking on more than 3 items?
Oh, yes, I will.
Okay, we will give you your 10 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Glenn Giblina. I'm a resident of Manatee County. And by the way, I love this county. I'm an advocate for it. So when I'm up here and you think I'm adversarial, it's because I care about our community and I care about our county. One of the things is trust and integrity. I am not necessarily against the 10 minutes. It's how you went about it that really put the cracks in the integrity in this board. I don't know why, and I didn't make that title up, the Bradenton Herald made that up. I don't know why we just didn't go back to a workshop. We had, as Mr. Miner would say at the school board, a deal is a deal. When we walked out there, we had enough votes to keep it the way it was. How it changed between up there and down here is still a mystery to me. But that's water under the bridge. The policy is set in place. I think it'll work out. I think the scare tactics that were used to change that policy would have never came about. I don't think anybody would abuse that privilege. And I think I proved that by not filling on any comment cards between the two meetings. So that being said, we're down the road. You got the new policy. I think everybody can work with it. Let's talk about some of the county properties that the county owns. Let's talk about the Judicial Center and the free rent that the Manatee Bar has been getting. I brought this up before. I'm bringing it up again. I talked to Mr. Bishop last week, went up to his office, and he assured me that a lease was in place and would be on the agenda today. I don't see it. Can anyone tell me where that lease is? No. Okay.
Okay, if you go ahead and finish your comments, we
Okay,
can respond.
because I was assured by Mr. Bishop that it would be there. In fact, I applaud him that he got a lease, and hopefully he can make it retroactive for at least 10 years. As far as being repetitious, I'm like Carol. I'm going to keep bringing stuff up until things get moved on. And, Canaan is my backyard, near and dear to me. 19 acres. I brought this program to you over a year and a half ago. Still sitting vacant. Still not doing any tax revenues. Not benefiting the community. Nobody benefits. We don't get any tax dollars out of it. It's overgrown. We could have had fruit trees started by now in a year and a half. We could have had 3 or 4 gardens going by now. Again, sits for a year and a half. The administrator doesn't do anything with it. If I'm a landlord and I have somebody who wants to take care of the property and they're not doing the job, I'd have serious issues with that person. So again, I'm asking, what are we doing with the 19 acres? What are we doing with the 63rd and 9th Street, the old nursery? Why don't we give that to the Men's Academy? Again, folks, it's just land. You want to build on it down the road, you want to sell it? We can do that. But for a property to sit for 12 years and do nothing is unconscionable. I mean, I don't know if you got anything better to do, but somebody needs to jump on this and do something. I don't care if there's chickens out there or pigs out there. Do something with it. The solar renewable energy policy. This is my 27th time at the podium to see if this board would consider a renewable energy policy. I send you cutting-edge information every week. And Betsy, I did look at that. A lot of that was research and development. That .05, as anything else, like making medicines or patents, it takes a lot. But dollar for dollar, solar is a good idea. And this county has not moved forward at all. You talk about the farmland. It's getting eaten up by development. I think we need to put the brakes on that. I entered a moratorium at the last meeting for you to look at. Yeah, there's some pitfalls for it, but I still think that's a viable option. Industrial hemp, I hope it comes to it. We've got 17 farmers lined up. Carol, you had mentioned to get the list. I got that list for you. But even if it was one farmer, you should have looked at it. It's an incredible product. Shirt on, 100% hemp. Had to buy it from Thailand, but this wears 10 times better than cotton. FP&L, speaking of my friends at FP&L, I've asked for the cost of the diesel generator that's going to go across the street that's going to run on natural gas. You guys appointed millions of dollars to build that, and I see they're doing that. But we don't know the cost of that generator. I don't know the operating cost. What's it going to cost every year to maintain? I'm sure that generator is going to be a few $1 million. How could you approve a budget not knowing what engine you're going to put in that car? I don't get it. I still haven't gotten an answer on that. Who makes the generator? What's the warranty? What's the operating cost on it? The citizens, since we're forking out $187,000 in interest on our payments, that we have a right to know that. So I think we could look at that. I think a big issue here is going to be the code enforcement. I went to that workshop, very disappointed on some of the recommendations and outcome. Folks, let's be reality here. We got 760 square miles of a wonderful county. One hat fit all is not going to work. Most of the stuff that you're talking about will work in gated communities. But for guys like me, blue-collar workers, other people in the neighborhood, we choose to live outside those communities so we can wash our boats in our driveways, so we can hang our clothes where we want. You need to seriously reconsider the code enforcement policies that you're thinking of set in place. It is not going to work in the 760 square miles. And in fact, I've talked to my neighborhood, and we've only got 53 houses in there. We're going to secede from that ordinance. We're going to do a petition. We want to be able to wash our boats in our driveway. We want to be able to hang our clothes where we want. So that's coming down the pipe. And I think once that happens, there may be other communities. It's not going to work for everybody. The health issue, another train wreck down the road, and I would encourage this board to start looking into something. But when you do, I don't want to go down the same road that we went with the Matrix with the animals. And that was a very good report. I grant you it was very good. But the fact remains, everything in that report, 90% of what was in that report, the people, input, workshops, you knew already. So I think we could have got that report done for a lot less had we said, okay, here's what we know. Tell us what we don't know, and we'll pay for you. As a taxpayer, I don't mind that. I've been to every workshop with the health issue. I've been out to the conference centers out there. You've got plenty of citizen comments. You've got several groups, the Tea Party Federation, all giving you input on how to fix the health care problem that's coming up. So I don't necessarily disagree that you maybe have to bring an outside person in. But again, it goes back to, here's what we know, tell us something we don't. So I don't want the taxpayer to spend a couple $100,000 on a report on 90% that we already know. So all I'm saying is to take the information that you do know and do that. Fracking, I agree. No fracking. And also, what else did I have in here? Oh, my little community of New Pierce. That's got to be rezoned. We're zone light manufacturing. I don't know whose harebrained idea was that, but I've got my phone. I don't have time to play it, but I'll certainly send you a tape. That has to be looked at. And again, Pirate City, that's another. That was last year. So I'm asking this board to not only not give them back our money, because again, last time I was at the podium, I brought all the invoices and products that were purchased, and there wasn't any. They're not going broke. They got $1 zillion. We don't need to send them one more dime. In fact, I'm going to go to the city and I'm going to ask for this money back. I should ask for the last 7 years back, but I'd be happy for last year's. So I would seriously consider, unless you can come up with a legitimate reason why we have to keep giving back taxpayers' money to the city of Bradenton, I'd like to hear it, because as of date, I have not. So I thank you for your time. I do love this county. I could be a pain in the butt up here sometimes, but that's what I do. And I'll do what it takes to make sure that we have a better county. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and go to our time certain now. That was the last person I had signed up. Apologize, should have probably done it before we started the last couple speakers. So we're going to go ahead and go to item number 35, which is a time certain US 41 pavement upgrade project update. Staff?
Good morning, Commissioners. Sajid Kamia with Public Works. This agenda item is to ongoing part of our efforts to keep you appraised of upcoming major road projects throughout the county. This particular project from the Florida Department of Transportation is, as was mentioned, to upgrade a portion of US 41 in front of Port Manatee. And so with us today we have Joe Locke and Kelly Spurgeon with FDOT.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and the rest of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to come today. I was asked to give a project update for the US 41 intersection improvements at Piney Point Road and Dock Street. This is the entrance of the Port Manatee. I also do have my project manager for the adjacent project. There's a resurfacing project associated with this, but the focus of our presentation is the reconstruction right in front of the port. Hopefully I've got this worked out here.
And Madam Chair, to clarify, that's the thickening to go across for air products mainly, right, in that area? That's what we've been talking about for a few years? This is the project?
Yeah.
Okay, just for the public.
Let's have him.
It includes that, but it's not.
Right, exactly.
Go ahead. Let's see your presentation. We'll do comments.
The photo you see in front of you is our project board. We presented this to the public last year. And it shows our project limits. The southern limit is just south of Dock Street, and it goes north beyond the curve north of Piney Point. And this is concrete pavement. We'll be changing from asphalt pavement to concrete pavement. It was identified as a lot of maintenance issues due to the high truck traffic in the area. So we are changing the pavement type. This is our typical section. We're not adding capacity at this location. We're simply just changing the type of pavement. We are doing some other items related to this project. We're extending some turn lanes and the acceleration lanes that are out there right now. Some of them are substandard. We have met with Port Manatee, gotten some of their requests. We are incorporating those into the project. We are updating and providing lighting at this intersection. We noted that there were some nighttime crashes in this area, so we are providing lighting. Due to our maintenance of traffic, we will be impacting the Port Manatee signs. We've coordinated with Port Manatee. We'll be replacing those signs as part of this project. Due to our widening for keyholes, we're going to have to upgrade that box culvert that's out there. As I mentioned before, we also have a resurfacing project. It goes from 275 to the county line. Those projects will be constructed as one project. We get a better bid from contractors, as well as not impacting the public multiple times. So they will be built together. As I stated, we've coordinated extensively with Port Manatee. We've met with Mr. Eiseminger multiple occasions for different topics. So they are well aware of this project coming through. We've coordinated with them, and we've provided some upgrades to our plans to accommodate their requests. We've met with Air Products. This is a private entity that is on the other side of 41. They have heavy equipment that needs to go across 41, and our project accommodates their product going across 41. We've submitted our plans through Manatee County, received comments, addressed those comments. They are in our final plans. And we've also coordinated with utility owners. There are some utility impacts. That work will be occurring before construction and during construction. So you will see some utilities in the area. I've provided our project schedule from where we began design. When we had our public meeting, we had our meeting in May of last year. We've received final plans January this year. We're going through some final comments, developing our final submittal for bid opening, which we anticipate in June. Construction should begin sometime in the summer, and we anticipate about a 19-month construction time. And that's between the two projects. We do have an disincentive on this, so there's an opportunity to reduce that construction time, and that will be placed within our contract documents. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to present, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
I don't want to lose my place because of the comments, but are you going to start by Dock Street first? Only because I can't remember the timing of Air Products. I'm thinking it's getting close. And this 500 and something days, I mean, you've coordinated because they need to get their big equipment at a certain time frame. Are you aware of that?
We are aware of that.
Okay.
When we met with them, we talked about coordination during construction. We will be notifying our construction office, and it'll be placed in our contract documents to allow coordination between our construction and allowing them to get through. All they've actually asked for is a level ground to make those movements and no construction within those areas.
Thank you.
And we can accommodate those.
Other questions, comments? I just want to ask you, will this increase the weight load capacity of the roadway? You had said you were, I wanted to clarify that.
Sure. Air Products developed a pavement design for their internal system. We've produced our pavement design separate of theirs, and our concrete thickness is actually thicker than their driveway, if not the same. So our roadway will support their proposed design vehicle.
Good. Okay, great. I wondered when this would happen because I saw it, when I drove up through Hillsborough in this area, I saw that they had all new paving. So this is an extension of that project, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner DiSabatino.
To piggyback on that, does our driveway from the FDOT area to the docks accommodate the weight?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and we're working with Air Products, just so you know, Commissioner,
okay.
because we may have to move our
The gate.
guardhouse, and they all, yeah, they're working on that.
Right, okay.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, staff, I know you had some comments that you wanted to make relative to this item. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Ron Schulhoff for Public Works. Actually, I'm just taking this opportunity to jump ship onto another topic. I'd like to introduce Ms. Trudy Jarina,
yes.
Jarina?
No,
I'm
it's good.
sorry. Trudy is part of our new public outreach. We're trying to get ahead of these projects so everybody knows what we're doing, when we're doing it. She's done a wonderful job coordinating one public meeting, and now she's got an announcement about the Fort Hamer that I would like to get out to the public. So Trudy, if
Okay,
you would, please.
just want to make sure no one has any more comments for the guy from FDOT regarding the US 41 project? Okay.
No,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
Go ahead.
All right, for the record, my name is Trudy Jarina, and I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be working with the guys in the Manatee County Public Works Department. And like he said, I started on the 44th Avenue project and had a public meeting for that. And the next one we're working on is the long-awaited Fort Hamer Bridge project, and also the 2 roadway improvement projects that go along with that project. So having said that, I would like to personally invite you to our groundbreaking that we're planning on March 19th, Thursday at 1:30, and that will be at the Fort Hamer Park, and we hope you all can make it.
It's on our calendars.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, definitely. We look forward to that. Thank you for being here and making that announcement today so the public knows that groundbreaking is coming soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those were both just presentation items, so I just want to make sure, did anyone else want to make any more public comment? I hadn't closed future agenda. Please come forward. We'll go ahead and finish up public comment.
Just for the record, my name is Deborah Glow, and citizen of Manatee County. We were kind of talking about that infamous button, and we pulled some PRRs from, excuse me, from Mr. Hutchinson's emails, and I would like to kind of tell you or read what they have said. And these emails were between Kathy Personnel, who is the reporter for the Islander, and I'll just going to read to you kind of what was said. This was the first part was said. By the way, I understand the county today took down the button to donate to Animal Network and No Kill Manatee. I had asked you about the connections, and you had said that if other rescues wanted to be included on your page, you would allow it. Is that answer still true? Mr. Hutchinson answered, Jean Peelan sent a letter on the subject to the BCC today. Get her to give you a copy. You owe it to yourself to do this. This link is down, but we'll be back up shortly with some elaborations and clarifications on how it works. But please call Jean and get her letter. Trust me, as a reporter, you will be glad you did. Again, Kathy says, will a future website be inclusive to all rescues that you partner with, and perhaps have a disclaimer about the organization between separate nonprofits but sponsored by the county? You assume, this is Mr. Hutchinson, you assume that the allegations you hear are true. Political BS at its finest. Get Jean's letter. Now, the last part is he's speaking to Kathy. Kathy, I put an awful lot of trust in you, and I have been as open and as candid as I can be. First, because it is the right thing to do. Second, because I don't, now listen to this, because I don't have to kowtow to anyone. Mr. Hunsinger, he should have to kowtow to you, excuse me. And, excuse me, let me find where I left off. To anyone. Thirdly, because I made a snap judgment that you are a good person and a good listener/writer and will do your best, notwithstanding Bonner, to get it right. I do so hope my trust has not been misplaced. I have certainly been disappointed before in situations like this. Do the right thing, do a good job, get it ready, and stand up to Bonner. Don't let her butcher this. There is enough of this going on already. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on a public comment that hasn't already addressed the board? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. This is on future items. It's actually not public comment. It's future items. We'll go ahead. Commissioner Whitmore, you had.
Yeah, I'm glad Agatha stayed. Hopefully, it wasn't somebody taking somebody's dog and throwing that dog over somebody's fence, but I hope you took the dog to at least get it scanned and registered at Animal Services. And if not, we can't talk now, but if not, I'm glad you're fostering it, and hopefully we can, because you never know, somebody may have called Animal Services for it, but I'm glad you did that. And the reason why there is nobody answering, we just approved last week hiring 2 patrol officers because they aren't working on weekends anymore because of staffing, and that's why Bill had asked for the 2 extras so that we have weekend coverage. The fight dogs and the bait dogs in the pictures that one of the citizens brought up, that's kind of how we actually got involved with the no-kill because of these bait dogs. Second chance for all of us that have been involved from day one was a dog they found by Manatee Hospital, and somebody used a pair of scissors to cut his ears back or short and taped his mouth shut with duct tape, and that's how kind of Humane Society Manatee came to me, and this kind of thing needs to stop. So these dogs ended up, if you can get somebody to spend time with them and have patience, she's absolutely right, some of them you can save. But unfortunately, we do have this list. I did pass it out to people I know that hopefully we can get them homes. The island, when you lose a dog on the island, as former mayor I know, and plus Brian Hall is on our animal abuse animal abuse coalition that we have with Lisa Chitero. They take them to the Holmes Beach Police, and then they call Animal Services. It's on a weekend. They have to get emergency something, and that would take a while. So I understand what you're saying, Barbara, but they do go to the Holmes Beach police officers take them to the police department, and then they call Animal Services. They don't call out Animal Services to get it usually. That's from what I understand. Barbara Hines made a comment about only Animal Services was called before the trial, the infamous trial by the defense, and I think Mickey has said publicly that the state's attorney could have called them as witnesses also, but they didn't. And whoever calls you, you have to go. It's not correct. I mean, the state's attorney could have called them as witnesses also, correct?
County employees have no control over who subpoenas them, whether it's the state or the defense. If they receive a subpoena, they are compelled to appear in court and to testify to the truth, regardless of which side calls them. And to label county employees as, quote, star witnesses in this proceeding, assuming that that was their motivation, which of course is a ludicrous suggestion. They weren't very star witnesses, were they? I understand that Mr. and Mrs. Napier, at least according to what I read in the newspapers, were convicted of multiple serious crimes and are facing serious state prison time. So to suggest, number one, the county employees were somehow willingly testifying for the defense is plainly inaccurate. To suggest that they were somehow star witnesses for the defense, well, the result of the trial would certainly suggest otherwise.
Okay, just a few more things. Glenn had mentioned that we're not solar. Nope, we're not, and he knows that we've told him 100 times. We are a certified green government. And if you go in all the stalls of all the bathrooms in Manatee County, they have information about the green team and what it is, what we do to save energy. So he can bring this up 27 times, but at this time, we've been told by our staff that economically, it doesn't make sense to go do something solar, which we are doing some things, but not, I think, as fast as he wants. The Pirates' economic benefit to this county is millions versus the 58,000 that we forgive. And I know we've brought this up to Mr. Gimelina a few times, and that's our answer. And Jean, thanks for coming up. We've got to, and I've said this, almost our whole morning has been regarding animal services. We have to move forward. We need to, we are on the right track. We are moving forward, and you can't get anything done being negative. You have to be positive. I'm glad things are brought to our attention if they need to be, but we have to move forward. We have to, we've got the best relationship with our rescues than I've seen in a long time. They're calling me. They're being involved with things that Animal Services are doing, and the rescues were going to events that they're having to try to get dogs adopted out. So again, I just implore that there are situations that have happened in the past. Mr. Hill, I've known him, since I've been involved with Animal Services. His director and his superiors will handle it if they have issues with it. I don't think it's going to happen here with citizens complaining at the dais. I think if there was any action, it was taken. And right now, he's the interim director of the kennel until they find somebody. And I think they're really close to finding somebody. I know they interviewed somebody, and I think maybe even made an offer. So we are moving forward, and again, most of the morning's been talking about things in the past, and we need to move forward, but I do appreciate what you have brought forward to us.
Okay, next up I had Commissioner Ball.
Just one comment I want to make, and this is on something that Glenn Jubilina said about the judicial building and the conference room and a lease. Glenn, not every room over in the judicial system is open to the public. And I know, we all know that you'd like to have that for your grand jury, but that's probably not going to happen. So I just wanted to address that. At least that's what I've heard.
He's left.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead. I was just going to jump to, since Charlie looked like he was leaving, and I just was going to ask him kind of off the cuff on fracking. I assume fracking is mining, and mining is regulated under our mining ordinance. But if I'm wrong, if you could come forward maybe and tell me. And if you don't know, that's fine too.
Isn't fracking gas?
It was just a question that was brought up, whether or not we could do fracking in Manatee County. And my assumption is fracking is a form of mining, but I could be wrong.
Well, it is, but it does capture the exploitation of mineral rights, which many property owners still retain in Manatee County. And those property owners have the ability to sell or lease those rights to, exploration. I can tell you that this region of the state is not favorable for oil and gas development by fracking or any other means because of the geology that we have here. Mm-hmm. And it was tried in Collier County and closed down by DEP.
Oh.
But we've not, it's not been on our radar, so to speak, relative to a imminent request or movement to that business here in Manatee County.
Well, I probably should clarify what I meant. If someone wanted to pursue that, they would have to comply with our ordinance that covers mining. Is that correct?
No, I can't answer directly on that because, of course, ours are directed towards surface mining, and oil and gas development is a little different, obviously, technology.
Okay. Good. Okay, thank you. Didn't want you to leave before I could ask that question. Okay, thank you. Next up, Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that and then banning of fracking. Would it interfere with certain people's property rights, and could we face legal action on that? A couple other items. Our friend regarding new piers. We can't rezone property that we don't own, and only the current owner can rezone property that they own. He wanted to rezone the whole community residential. What did come up is the trucks that are going through. They do have the sign, no trucks, the speed limit, but they are violating it, and the MSO is working with him. They got his phone number, and they are working with him to try to stop that truck traffic, especially at night and during when the children are out playing. It is dangerous because it is a really circuitous route there. About the workshops regarding the minutes, I think we had a lot of workshops on that, and I know Commissioner Whitmore was not in favor of the 10-minute total, but several of the commissioners were in favor, I think, at the workshop of just 3 minutes total and not a 10-minute total. So I think when it was presented that we had a 10-minute total, that was a compromise, and that's why I voted to go along with that, because I didn't want just the 3-minute total to win. Okay. Regarding the employee that was mentioned, I'm sure that the county administrator is going to look into that further. I have a question regarding the naming of the animals. I guess when they come in for intake and then they're put up on a website, that's where they're named. Yeah, so if we can also look into that, because the naming and the horrible naming needs to stop. So if you can look into that, and if you can look into, staff can look into Mr. Levinson's questions on the Easy Track system. I appreciate Jean Palin coming today. I know she and her team are working hard, and again, we do need to move forward, but if it weren't for the hard work of some of the ladies here and all the other people, this might not have come to light regarding the Napiers when it did, and regarding some other abuses. So, we have to thank them for being diligent and continuing to their diligence, and that's their world. They're really involved with it. They're very passionate and compassionate about it, and I really respect that. My daughter was here for the week, and she's totally on board with this, and don't touch a hair on her dog. I mean, she is just passionate about her animals and her cat. So also, it was brought up, Glenn brought up about a moratorium, and I know Commissioner Whitmore had talked about that. But maybe the county attorney can elaborate on moratoriums. Does it have to be specific and for a specific length of time and so forth? So I don't know if you're prepared to do that now, or you can do it in the future with a memo or something.
The future would be preferred.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Whitmore and then County Attorney.
And just one last thing, Jean Palin, when she came back in, was a big part of the issues. I'm trying to be,
Right.
Issues at Animal Services, and she and I and Lisa and many others would sit for hours and talk about issues and ways that we could try to turn things around. But then Jean also, when Bill came, and it was hard, but they got together and they met for hours. They were supposed to meet for a half hour. I think they spent like 2.5 hours together. And you got to move forward sometime. You just got to move forward, and we can't get anywhere if we're still back a year or two ago.
Right.
So Jean, again, part of her work did bring this before us, as well as these women, the whole group did, and I'm glad it did, and now we just got to move forward, and a lot of them a lot of the animal lovers that come before us are moving forward. So again, and it's getting to be a partnership again. We're actually going to hopefully start the animal coalition like we did a few years back, where all the rescues actually get together and exchange ideas, and that's how all this got started. But we've been through major issues, major rocky points, major lows, and now we're working on good highs. But I was going to bring it up under comments, but since everybody's here, you know, I did call Sue this morning on the way to work, just to see exactly, you know, she's got on a list of about 60 dogs that need heartworm treatment, and she's got the money for that. And after that, there's only about enough for 17 more dogs. She pays $165 a dog, and I think it costs like $400 to treat a heartworm. But she's getting the medicine at a reduced rate to give to all the rescues. So, you know, this organization is not technically what we're talking about. The No-Fill is not technically an organization to take in animals. It's an organization to raise money to give to the rescues for medical needs. So that's why it's different. And we've all made this commitment up here. If we have other organizations that just want to do that, and in the future, if we want to look at it, you know, there's nothing precluding that we can look at that in the future. But again, this organization is not per se just a rescue. It is an organization that helps the rescues. And, you know, if others come up, fine. We said that last meeting we would look at it. So that's all.
County Attorney.
Madam Chair, just a quick point of clarification on a comment made by Mr. Wheeler. He made a reference to a secret special magistrate. The identities of our special magistrates are well known. It's not a secret. The proceedings conducted by the Code Enforcement Special Magistrates are open to the public for anyone to attend. Do they typically occur right in this room? So for Mr. Wheeler and anyone else interested in observing those proceedings, and he need only call Mr. Barnott and get a schedule of those hearings, and Mr. Barnott would gladly provide you with the identity of those special masters as well. So there's nothing secret about the process.
And we adopted procedures regarding that. Is that correct, County Attorney?
That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I see Maureen coming forward.
For the record, Maureen Sikora, Assistant County Attorney. This board adopted an ordinance a couple of years ago in which you set up the special magistrate system in lieu of the Code Enforcement Board system. We previously had both kind of a hybrid system in place. And you have provided exclusively now for special magistrates to hear code enforcement violations. You also appointed 2 individuals as special magistrates. I believe the special magistrate adopted their own rules of procedure, just setting forth the agenda and declaring that these would be open to the public, and you know that, and also the notices of their meetings are posted on the county's internet. And the agendas are posted out, or the notices of individual cases are posted out in front. You know, when we can't reach people, we're required to use either certified mail, or we can post the property and post a notice at the administration building. So I would be happy to work with Mr. Wheeler, provide him copies of the rules of procedure. The ordinance is codified in the county's code of ordinances at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
And I guess the last item regarding the animal and the button, and again, thanks for Jean Palin to come today. I just went on, I don't see the button up yet. I was never opposed to the button. I'm not opposed to it. I just wanted the disclosure and the disclaimer. So I just want that clear, and moving on. And just like the email that was read, I think by Deborah Glow, can we add in other organizations with another button? And you know, any organization that wants to come forward that's a 501c3 can apply. I think that's what we said, that they could apply to get vetted to have a button for them as well. Mr. County Administrator.
I don't recall that discussion. I don't recall this board taking any action on that we were going to add.
Yes, we discussed having.
What we said was, because at one point they were not gonna, unless we got unanimous, they weren't going to, but
that I
it
recall.
changed. And then he said, if we didn't, then we'd have, maybe could find another organization that does what they do, not just any organization. But she's agreed to do it. But again, we can look at it, but truthfully, I mean, I have no problems, but I would appreciate just to let everything settle down. We only got enough money for 16 dogs now, so all these people that are taking in our heartworm positive dogs, we only got enough money for 16 more.
So why can't the button go back?
Well, that is the administrator's job.
We are,
That's not- we
okay,
talked
I
about
wanna,
2 issues.
okay, I don't want to jump up. We have a lot of people that have been waiting to get through the rest of the agenda,
Right.
and we're really deviating from that. Let's save this for at the end of the meeting, and we can
Okay.
discuss this further. Because there's things that have been stated that, to my mind, are not true. We did not take action on this. We'll talk about it after we get through the rest of the public hearing, so. Commissioner Smith?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like Mr. Wheeler to, I was laughing at you for a reason, but I would like for you to schedule a meeting with my office before you leave today. And some of the questions that you did ask, I did ask those same questions. I have attended the hearing magistrate meeting dealing with code enforcement. And so I met with the county staff, Mr. John Bernard and Jeff and all of them. But before you leave, please schedule a meeting with my office. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward with our agenda. We're now on advisory board appointments, Community Services Public Safety Coordinating Council.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, Brenda Rogers, Director of the Community Services Department. We're here today to ask for you to accept letters of appointment to the Public Safety Coordinating Council for Judge Dino Economou and Judge Charles Sniffen, and to appoint Alfred James and Josh Kramer as representatives on the PSCC board in the category of county state jobs programs / work with offenders and victims category, and then to appoint Melissa Larkin Skinner to represent substance abuse treatment programs, also a category designated by statute for the remainder of a term that was vacated recently by a retirement.
Thank you. Commissioner Bustle.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the letters as requested in the action requested.
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the issue of advisory board appointments that's before us today? Anyone who'd like to speak on that? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving back to the agenda, the next item that we have up is our, I don't think we have anything on Port Authority at this time.
I don't, maybe I'll wait till the end of the meeting.
Good idea.
Can't say anything
Okay,
yet.
advertised public hearings, presentations upon request. We have 2 items that are advertised public hearings. Would anyone like a presentation on either one of these? Okay. For the record, the first one is Buckhead Trails Community Development District, CDD 14-05, Ordinance -15-13. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the Buckhead Trails Community Development District establishment? Anyone who would like to address the board on this public hearing item? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Motion to adopt ordinance number 15-13.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for approval and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, so motion passes. The next item is number 34, which is Wildcat Preserve Community Development District. This also is a public hearing item. For anyone who would like to address the board on the establishment of the Wildcat Preserve Community Development District. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on the Wildcat Preserve Community Development District.
Motion to adopt ordinance 15-12.
You have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Who made the second?
I'm sorry,
Bustle.
Commissioner Bustle
thank
made the
you.
second.
Oh, I thought Smith did.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Okay, and then we are through with our public advertise public hearings. We have already dealt with item number 35, so at this time, we are on commissioner comments, unless there's anything else that I missed. Commissioner comments. I'm going to go ahead and start with Commissioner Baugh.
How'd that happen? Just wanted one thing. State Road 70 and Greenbrook, a traffic warrant study was done, and it did come back that a stoplight there at that intersection is warranted. So,
Good.
One more time? Green?
State Road 70 and Greenbrook.
Greenberg?
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
So it's good. I think the discussion is going on at this point with FDOT about funding it, and it is a state road, so I'm sure that FDOT will be putting that in their budget, hopefully, bringing that up. And the other thing, and I'll bring this up at the MPO, but, you know, I want to find out, I'm hearing some talk about roundabouts on State Road 70 and 64, and that's concerning me because of the speed limits that those roads are at. I can't imagine how a roundabout's going to work, but anyway, hopefully we'll hear more about that. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. There was an action that we received, I think, regarding roundabouts on 64, that the state was actually looking at a roundabout possibility at 64 and Rye Road. And be an interesting way to slow traffic down, but it's
Hey, I was
also
gonna say,
significant highway.
You know, on that road on 64, it's
you slow.
an hour.
No,
You wouldn't be at that point.
No, it's bizarre.
Would
how that
slow it
It
down.
works.
So
Yeah.
I don't know where we are, but we can,
Yeah.
probably is a good idea to bring them up at the MPO, because Billy Hadaway is typically there and can respond to that. Okay, alphabetically, I'm going to go ahead and go to Commissioner Bussell next.
We all have been involved in Mr. and Mrs. Hauser's complaint about their property and 40th Avenue East. My concern is that it's in my district, and for all of us to reply to her sort of makes it look a little funny.
Yeah, but we didn't know she only sent it to
Well,
individually to each of us.
I would ask that you delay a day or something like that, and at least give the district commissioner an opportunity to respond before you forward it to the citizen action system, because I did too.
Yeah, I did
That was one of
too.
the first things I did, is put it in the CAS. And I've asked the administrator to look into it as well, so just a friendly request. I'm not suggesting that you don't have a right to do it, but I'm just asking, give me a little bit of time to work the problem before you jump in.
I just want to
Well, I
comment on
know.
that, because it was a little easier with our previous email system. It was really clear, and I know we've had some issues with it, that when a request came like that a response came from the chair typically, issued by Yvonne. And so that had been happening. That kind of went away, and I've talked to Yvonne about that because it makes me nervous. Do we look like we're not being responsive? So I have been responding when I see those come, because I think it's my job as chair to make sure that there's a response. That typically the response is it's gone to CAC, that they will look into it in so much time. So it is a little unclear, I have to admit.
Maybe we can ask the staff to weigh in and staff control that, instead of making us look like we don't know what each other is doing, which is what it does.
Yeah, and it did get a little bit mixed up, because Yvonne, some of the emails were not, it was hard to track, a little bit harder with our new system, so.
Two things. We have a process improvement for CAC that I'd like to talk to each of you about. And two, we have a new system on the way. But the process improvement should help things out. And I'll be around to visit each of you in short order here to go over the details of how we can make that work to alleviate that concern of who's doing what.
Okay. In the interim, I'm A-okay with saying the district commissioner is responsible for making sure that it's in the proper system, which, as we know, is the CAC, right?
Right.
Okay.
I have a question,
I didn't know that
because
was the protocol.
when we're two at-large commissioners, I got it, nobody else was copied, so I thought maybe this person only sent it to me. So, And if you saw what I wrote, Larry, I don't know if maybe I copied you, but what I said is I've passed it on to CAC, and I'm sure your district commissioner will get back with you. I've never not responded to an email, except when, at certain times I haven't, but probably 99.9% of, I've always responded so they know at least I read it. But I did, on this person, it was way too complicated. All the stuff, actually, she called me. This is the lady with the mill, the subdivision with mill something, correct? Yesterday? And I didn't know whose district she was in, so that's why I said, yeah, I asked her to put it in writing to me, and that I would pass it on. Or that may have been another one yesterday.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
a different one,
Yeah,
Carol.
but
This is a letter we received a while ago. We actually received it the day of the public hearing, and it came in the afternoon after we had already taken action.
Oh.
And then it came in again, and that's why, I saw your response, and I said, well, I sent this to CAC a while ago, so I think that's what Larry's talking about, and he said, well,
But how would we know as at-large commissioners if they sent it to the district commissioner? Sometimes the citizens say, I've sent it to the district commissioner, and I want to send it to the at-large commissioners too.
I'm going to let Ed say this, because it is a little bit confusing, and we
Right.
all want to be responsive, so, that,
The short answer is, you have traditionally thought the CAC was going over to Casey and Yvonne.
Right.
We've been working with the ladies in your office of Mary Ann, Yvonne, and Shirley, and it's a little closer to you all. If you give whatever request you have for CAC and give it to them, they can coordinate amongst themselves to make sure you don't put the same item in multiple times. They can put it into the system, they can track and report back to you the status and make sure that we don't have that again. Because one of the issues we talked about is someone that sends in a request and they send it to each of you individually so that you don't know that the other six have it. They'll be able to coordinate that better, and they'll be able to follow up. They'll be able to put a report on your desk each week as to the status of those items that you've requested out of CAC. And then we'll work with the department directors to make sure that their responses are timely, accurate, and complete, so that we don't have to do follow-ups. But I have that all in writing that I need to share with you.
okay.
So
But
where
you're
do-
okay with, for the time being, the assumption is that the district commissioner will report it to their assistant to get it into the CAC.
Yes.
And then if
We get
I
it.
get paranoid and don't think you're doing it, and I do it, they'll say, oh, they'll send a report back and let us know that it's already in the system.
Yes.
So if we get them, do we just tell a
Just-
person thank you, but then we forward it to our assistant?
You forward it, if you get it, you forward it outside to your assistant, and they'll make sure amongst the three of them that it's only in there one time.
Good.
Okay, Commissioner Baugh, you want to comment?
Yeah, I want to comment on what Ed just said. I have started doing that actually with Mary Ann, and I can tell you that the response is, it's awesome. It's so much faster. It's so much better. And it also gives me an opportunity to find out if an email has been sent to all commissioners, just me, or whatever, because I'm funny about it. If I get something from another, from someone in another district, I don't want to feel like I'm stepping on that district commissioner. So I really try to make sure that it's handled. And Larry, I did not respond to that because I knew as the district commissioner you were. Me being a district commissioner, you've got two at large. It's not my place. I'm aware of the situation. I find out what's going on, but I don't try to take it over per se. But I think the new system, Ed, that you're talking about is really the way to go, because the girls up on the floor can make sure that only one request is being sent. And it really does work better, and it helps the commissioners out individually as well.
And we'll be talking to the department directors tomorrow morning about the process, that if requests come in from other sources, citizen gets directly to a department, the departments are going to notify your assistants to get it in the system, so you know that things are coming in, and we're tracking those issues as they come in from other means and direction, so that we capture everything in the system for history.
All right. Mr. Bustle,
Yesterday was the monthly meeting of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and the meeting was essentially a forum with three panel participants on the subject of shared rides, ride sharing, Uber, Lyft, in other words. And it's a very interesting situation that is developing. I don't know if you have read or know much about Uber or Lyft, but it's a phenomenon that's catching on around the world, literally, in London, in Paris, in Berlin, and many other places, including Tampa and St. Petersburg. So that's why the big interest in the RPC. It pits the technology with an iPhone app of Uber and Lyft against the conventional taxi and limo services. And the conventional taxi and limo services are pretty much defined, let's say, by regulation that says you can do this with your car, your driver has to be checked on the national database, your vehicle has to be inspected, you have to have proper insurance. Some taxi companies have even gone so far as to limit the number of taxis that are allowed in a certain area. Uber, on the other hand, is the epitome of unregulated transportation. The interesting thing is they all are trying to do the same thing, get somebody from point A to point B safely and quickly. And Uber and Lyft are apparently winning hands down as far as response time, frequently just a few minutes rather than 20 or longer minutes. There'll probably be more coming out about this, and I just want to bring it up to your attention so that if you see an article about it or want to pursue it further, you can look it up online. It really is interesting in that it sort of parallels the discussion about the millennials, because the millennials love this.
I know. Yeah.
And it gets very quickly into the world of risk and how much risk are you willing to accept? If you don't want to accept hardly any, then you have insurance to cover everything that could possibly happen. On the other hand, if you know that the taxi company has, or the Uber driver has insurance on his car that covers you while you're in the car, then maybe you don't care about what happens to the driver and the car after the passenger gets out of it. And that's sort of the interesting feature that's coming forward. It sort of fits, as I say, with the philosophy that we've been told the millennials are looking for. So.
Yeah, and I just want to comment on that because we also had a presentation at T-BARTA about that. And of course, Hillsborough County has an interesting situation.
Public Transportation Commission.
The Public Transportation Commission, that they're very heavy regulated. But I happen to know my daughter and her boyfriend use Uber quite a bit in Sarasota. And someone had asked me about our regulations, and I said, to my knowledge, we don't regulate it.
No.
To my knowledge, it's working fine in Sarasota, but I only say that anecdotally because I know they use it. Matter of fact, I was there when my daughter was going someplace, and it was actually her boyfriend. He picked up the phone, he showed me the app, he showed me how fast he would get there, met the guy who was driving the car, and just talked to him. But yeah, they love it. They love using the Uber. So am I correct in saying we don't have any regulations in Manatee County that regulate that at this time?
I'm pretty sure, but I think Mr. Palmer is looking into that.
That was a question I brought back to Mr. Palmer about it, and we're going to look into that. But, it's interesting that, the taxi companies are opposed to them being unregulated, whereas the taxi companies have to be regulated. It constrains them, it doesn't constrain the others. We probably need to ask Nick to keep his eye out for Tallahassee, what's going on there, because there is something working through the mill there to an attempt to regulate. However, the participants yesterday claimed that it's essentially institutionalizing lack of regulation.
Preempting local government.
Exactly. And so it's going to be essentially a paper shell of a statute that won't really regulate the Uber or Lyft.
Can I on that?
Carol? Yeah.
There's a, and you know, it's free enterprise, but I some kind of regulation like background checks or something, because my daughter was doing it. Even though at her age, I'd still be flipping out.
They do have background checks. The drivers have
Okay.
they have it. So they promise that when you sign up for the service, that they have background checks for Uber.
And the islands right now, the trolleys are so packed that there's there's a electric car that has thatch roofs on it, says free, you just give them tips. He's been doing that for 3 years now, because the trolleys are packed right now. And then now I see 2 buses that, they're old school buses, the short ones, and I think it says free wild monkey or something on it, free for tips too. So, and they're all full. The trolleys can't handle the customers right now especially, and these places are up all night long, and the trolley stops at a certain time, and these places keep going to bring them home from their establishments. So that's free enterprise. But I do agree, you know, but I'm glad to hear that there's background checks. And you're right. I've heard my daughter's friends say that they've used it. I assumed they'd used it in Tampa. They must be using it around here.
Well, they are, but don't be misled by a statement that they are doing background checks, because there's differences in background checks, as you probably know.
Like
You can
sex
do one
offender
on the internet that probably costs you a few bucks, but it's not the same thing as an FBI background check.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right, Commissioner Chappie.
Just 2 quick things. Congratulations, thanks to Charlie Bishop and his team. Coquina Beach, Coquina Bayside is looking great. They're finishing up with the palm trees. I think they're done, I'm not sure, but it's amazing. The place has never looked as good as it is, so I appreciate that. They've been doing a lot of work out there for as they can get to it over the years, and they're continuing adding the benches and the rails along Cortez Beach area, and people love the benches and the bike racks that are being put out there. Who would have thunk it? Bike racks. You know, it's just one of those things that should have hit us in the face a long time ago. So I appreciate the fact that these guys are doing a great job out there. Saturday, I was at Cedar Hammock Fire District open house on 53rd. It was a great event. They had a ton of people there. They did some great demonstrations on fire and the sprinkler system, and how quick a fire can be put out with the sprinkler system, and the damage that it does, you know, the fumes from these fires because of the materials that we use today. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner DiSabatino.
Yeah, I stated last night I was at a Whitfield Valentine meeting, and kudos to them for their directory. They put out a really first-class directory, and then their newsletter, which also goes online. But what was interesting is I was flipping through, and I came across this word lexophilia, and I'm thinking, that sounds awfully so strange. But it's a word used to describe those that have a love for the use of words, such as you can tune a piano or tune a piano. And it's so funny because Commissioner Whitmore just said one that didn't even realize that she's a lexophile today. She said the trolley is all full, and it's awful or all full.
Some people may think it's awful, but yeah, that's a good point.
And kudos to Ivan Groom and his team for the Southwest TIF update letter, and I handed them out. And Mr. Bustle is on a YouTube on their little website. I didn't even know if you knew. Speaking of Mr. Bustle, I think we have a new term that we can coin between the millennials, to include the millennials and Larry Bustle, because he is so up on computer technology, and kudos to him on that. Just so you know, I'm having my first meeting at the Charlotte Harbor Estuary meeting Thursday, and I'm also on the Tampa Bay Estuary, so I got both ends covered, and Mr. Chappie is in the middle.
Thank you for that.
And I'm the new chair of the Tampa Bay Estuary, so that's really been exciting, and I take that over. I think the meeting is April or May, and I see we have meetings coming up regarding the impact fee study, and I guess you're going to be advising us, Mr. Administrator, regarding the part that you did for the school board and what we're in charge of regarding the school board and what we have to approve. And I'm sure that will be coming up. And then I see Mr. Shores. Welcome, Mr. Shores here. That's it.
That's it? Did you want to comment at all on the impact fee that the school board?
Yes, I hear there's, you might be getting phone calls, or the staff has been getting some phone calls from school board members. And we'd like to, if I get the chance to get upstairs and talk to Mr. Mills about asking his school board members if they have questions about impact fees, they should ask the staff of the school board. And if school board staff can't answer them, they can call us, but it makes it uncomfortable for my staff to be getting questions from elected officials of the school board about impact fees and how they work and what the issues are. But we're finishing up a bit today. I'll get to that today and give Mr. Mills a call and see if we can slow that down. They have voted to appropriate, I think it was $50,000 to have an impact fee study completed in conjunction with the impact fee study that we're doing, because we're doing it in conjunction with the state statute that says every 5 years you have to update your impact fees. So we're looking, we have an RFP on the street to look at how to update those fees, hire a firm to update the fees, and we'll be back in front of you with any questions, issues, concerns that come out of that process, with the hopes that we finish that up before the end of the year and get back in front of you to have a discussion about our impact fees as well as the school's impact fee. We'll be getting data from the staff of the school system to help in completing that study of the school impact fee. And then the school board will make a recommendation to this board about how much they would like to levy in the way of an impact fee.
And that's their responsibility. It's not our responsibility. They have to bring that forward to us. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll do the study. We'll provide them the data. You adopt an ordinance about their fee, but at their recommendation.
Right, because I think there's some misconception in the community that we do it, but we have to get direction from them first. Right.
Yes.
And then we do it.
Yes.
Okay.
You adopt the ordinance for a school impact fee.
Right. I forgot one other thing. I wanted to thank staff for giving out those proclamations in the new frames. I think they look great. I had asked for something like that a couple years back when we were poor, and so now that I think we have a little more money, they're not that much, but it really is a nice presentation to give to somebody. It's ready to hang up and display in their offices or their homes. So kudos to staff for doing that. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair. I had a chance to attend the Parish Association Parade.
Yes.
Along with you and Commissioner Whitmore, and I was very impressed with the process and with so many people out there and seeing the homes and the historic parish area, and some of the homes, I mean, my God, they're really put together nice. Some of them probably 70 years old, but they look like they're brand new. So people really take pride into the parish area, and that shows you what association would do. That empower people and draw people together. I didn't get a chance to stay out there most of the day. I had to leave and had other things I had to deal with, which some of you may know. But it was awesome. The first time I got a chance to be in it, met friends and high school classmates I hadn't seen in years.
Yeah. Cool.
And so that was really good. And I just want to encourage parents for everything that they do, because they still hold on to their heritage. They're still active, and it's a loving community. And I look back over the years, that the stores and everything that I used to go to, it was nothing like going to the stores, buying some out of those stores, eating under the trees. And to see classmates and people you haven't seen in years, it was a very good thing. Some of you may know, and you may not know.
May I comment on the parade? by leaving early, you missed tasting 23 different varieties of chili.
They told me you was a judge.
Did you take Prilosec or something ahead of time?
A little Zantac.
The chili was wonderful. I ate a lot of chili that day, too. We tasted a bit, but I wasn't a judge, thank goodness, so I could skip a few that were really, really hot.
Well, it leads to I don't have much, but it leads to my next statement. And the reason I had to leave, and most of you may know, and some of you may not know, my father has been ill for over 2 months and hospitalized. And so I've been dealing with that. And I want to thank Commissioner Whitmore for being such a good friend and confident in me and my family, giving me information that I needed to know to deal with my father. Commissioner Barr, Madam Chair, thank you so much for the text. My father's doing much better. He's recovering, but we still need your prayers. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, yes, we have been praying for your father in the hospital, so you're making me cry. Commissioner Whitmore.
Okay. The governor, as you probably know, appointed me on the Medical Examiners Commission, and I just attended their meeting in Tampa a few weeks ago, and which I didn't know, and you'd think after 40 years of being a nurse I would know this, but there's 4 different organizations that do organ donation, and the West Coast I've always been familiar as LifeLink. But Osceola, Pensacola, Jacksonville, they use LifeQuest, and I think it's important that the public know this because I'm sure a lot of the medical people here don't know that. Southern Florida uses Life Alliance, and Orlando, Daytona area uses TransLife, and they gave a presentation to us. Florida is the second only to California for donor registry. Since they relaunched the registry, it's grown 65% to 8 million people. There's 5,772 people today waiting on the transplant list, and in 2014 we only did 572. Also, I was appointed on the probable cause panel for the Medical Examiners Commission, and so far since I've been on the panel, I've had to hear 2 cases. So, moving on to something good and lightning. I know, I've been a nurse and then I go to this and I'm dealing with medical examiners that do autopsies. It's kind of way against my grain, but it's interesting. The Pelican issue that I'm keeping you all up to date. I don't know if Charlie's still here. He's not. He's been doing a wonderful job, Ed. We've got Jeannie Bystrom from Anna Maria Island, Holmes from Holmes Beach, who found an organization, and it's a state organization. These people donated signs for us to put up at all the boat ramps, and actually the signs display how to untangle a pelican. Charlie's working on the end with Tallahassee to try to come up with, and working with DEP and Fish and Wildlife and the Skyway operators to try to come up with some kind of program that we could do as a, like a pilot program. Because the brown pelicans are a species of concern, and as I've been telling you all, we are, especially during tourist season, it's a very big problem. So we're going to hopefully work with the Skyway and the state and work up ways where we can either educate the public or come up with some kind of rules regarding that in the future and on our all publicly owned piers in the future, maybe if we need to. So I'll keep you all informed on that. I went to Robin's presentation at the Bayshore, Restore Bayshore Committee meeting about a month or so back. Half and half of the citizens were for historical preservation of their area. So I think what came around, I think Robin said that, was they may do spot areas now because some of the citizens were afraid that things would change and too much regulation, so we'll see. But was interested in the banner. I pay for a subscription and I passed it to Betsy because she's the other at-large commissioner, so she would know. But the marina and the hall, they have their own marina and then they have a hall that I knew it was available for the residents there, but you can also rent it for the public. And I think that's something that really is not known. And it's a nice hall. It's got a kitchen and everything in it. So I don't know if we could do, if even Bayshore, Robin, you may want to ask if they want us to do a better job publicizing it. Okay, and then I am also on the Healthcare Alliance for years now, and they're going to have their Champions for Healthcare again on May 21st in Lakewood Ranch at the Polo Grill again, and if they have applications, if anybody wants to nominate, there's different categories. Also, Steve Knopick from Bell's, the CEO, he has been nominated and is the chair of the Florida Chamber, because I didn't know that, yeah. So I sent him a message telling him, I said, I'm really not anybody, but I just wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you. So he's excited. I think his first meeting is this week. And then the last thing I did tell you about, and I was right, it's a list of 60 dogs that are on a list to be treated for heartworm for Animal Network. And then they have enough left for 16 dogs, and it cost $165, their cost. So, and I reported that, and that's it.
Okay, great. All right, that leaves just me. I just wanted to give a shout out to Dave Dillard. I know we saw an email that came from some folks that were talking about the dog park and the work that had been done by county staff. Dave Dillard has been around for a long time. His wife Sally is still in the planning department, so I've known them for a very long time. So I want to say congratulations to Dave for getting such great comments from the public who really appreciate the hard work that our Parks and Rec, is that which group it is? I get it confused. Is it Parks and Rec that did the work there?
Well, it's a combination of Parks, Rec, and Property Management.
Property Management did to do the improvements to the dog park. So people were thrilled about that. I don't get to that dog park very much because it's kind of a distance from my home, but I know that it's a very, very heavily used facility. So I'm glad to see the people said they love the benches, they love the trees that have been utilized, and I just want, again, we have wonderful employees, and we love it when we get comments from the public thanking them for their hard work. And that's pretty much, I did want to ask the one comment that came up about disposition of property. I know we had a work session on that. What's the status of the RFP for, or whatever it's called, the
Invitation to negotiate
on the properties? If you could just let me know.
Well, I will let you know, because just before coming down here this morning, I took that list of items and I put them in a nice, neat file, and tomorrow morning, when I have the department directors, we're going to go over each one of them.
Okay. Because I know there was questions about the,
Yes.
about the site in Pride Park, community center site. Commissioner DeSabatino, did you want to ask a question?
I was just chuckling to myself when you mentioned Parks and Rec, when I told you my daughter was here last week, and they had us watching some episodes of that series, Parks and Rec, and I'd never seen it before.
Oh.
Oh, it's so funny, with her trying to acquire the land for the park, and it was just really hit home. It was funny. So I'm going to continue to watch the series.
Interesting. Commissioner Bustle.
Yeah, on the subject of ride sharing, I wanted to ask, has anybody else seen the vehicle that is hanging around over by McKechnie Field? I'm not sure where all it goes, but it's got about 10 people on it plus a driver, 5 on each side, and they're all pedaling except for the driver.
That's that bar.
It's a bar, yeah. They're sitting
You're gonna get another
on a
one.
bar stool, but they're pedaling.
You're having a blast.
Oh, yeah. It started in St. Pete.
They all look like they're
yeah.
having fun, and they can't get in trouble for drinking and driving because they have a separate driver, and
Right.
Oh, that's
it's
good.
pretty
I've
interesting.
seen it downtown, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it
They're all
downtown.
laughing.
Yeah.
We need to,
So it wasn't you I saw on there.
Well, we won't tell.
all right. Anything else? We have Chip Shore here in the office. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
Here to watch you all.
Okay,
Well,
great.
5 times in less than a week.
Thank you for the hard work that you've been doing. As everyone knows, Chip's obligation is to make sure that the money that is spent in this county is spent on the proper things, and he has done a great job for how many years, Chips? 38 years have kept us out of trouble, so we really appreciate that.
It's also the CFO for the port.
CFO for the port, and also taking a strong interest in our historic preservation efforts. We appreciate everything your staff is doing then. This week is, what is it, or this month is Manatee Heritage Month. Many, many great activities going on. Encourage people to look at the website.
Working with the historic designation, for the Bay Shore area.
Yep, working with the Bay Shore area, but there, if you go to the clerk's website, I think it has all the listed activities for Heritage Month. There's walks through like old Manatee neighborhoods, I know, things like that, guided tours. So encourage everyone to take advantage of that while you can. And, you know, people love to understand a community's heritage, and we do a great job, I think, in this community of giving people an opportunity to learn about Manatee County's heritage.
Also doing something really exciting too is working with Commissioner Smith.
You're gonna, can you come forward? Can you come down to the microphone if you're gonna speak? Because the clerk's office says, you gotta be on the record if you're gonna talk. We blame them for a lot.
Zoom rolls, that's cute.
About 4 or 5 just today.
That's because you got out of bed this morning.
That's right. No, I was just saying we've been working with Commissioner Smith on oral histories of his community, and it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, may I comment on that?
Yes, sure.
Mr. Shaw and his staff, we've met probably 3 times. And he's been working diligently, and we've had meetings in the communities, and what he's doing is great. It ties into what we're doing with the Historic Board and everything, Preservation Board and things like that, because what we're doing now, we're gathering history of historic sites. Mr. Shaw has agreed to come in and partner with the community and restore that history. And Moody Johnson, the president of Lincoln Association, and all of them, he's participating. Mr. Roundtree, all of these different people, Ms. Jones out of the community. So all the history of Manor Hill Packing Houses, Rogers family, which you know was doctors and lawyers here in Manatee County. They're historic stuff, and I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for everything that you're doing, and the community is very thankful.
Thank
you
you.
See so much participation out this community and stuff. I'm dealing with some family issues, which you may have heard, but thank you so much for what you're doing and everything that you've done. And you've been a good friend of this community for many years. And one thing about Chip, and I told him, I don't believe in biting my tongue, that he hired a lot of people that in that office that really need a job. And they diversed, and he's helping across the state doing the same thing, integrating clerk's office to make sure that they hire properly. He's putting key people in position on these state boards. And so I thank you for that and everything that you do. I just want to say that, but we're going to continue to push that forward.
Yeah, our president of our Florida Association of Court Clerks is African American this year.
And they
We're
told me
really
you-
proud. He's done a super job.
And you had a lot to do with it.
I did. I got him on the board.
You sure did. And that's exactly what was told to me, and we thank you for that, too.
Which clerk is that, Chips? Which county?
Santa Rosa.
Okay.
He's the president.
Madam Chair, can I ask Chips, because during the meeting, I emailed Chips about this, the warrant thing, because he had put it on at one time, and he said he was going to look into it. So can you just say something, because
Sure. It's on our website, and we had a URL you just touched, and it went right to it. But from now on, we'll put it back on the board site, too.
thank you.
Thank you.
And Chips helped get me on Fliggett board, the Florida Trust. You helped me get me on the Florida Trust board.
Oh, yeah, the Florida Trust, that's something we started in
And you've
1998.
gotten,
Yeah,
you know, awards for your participation in
Yeah.
that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
reminded, by the way, that one of the few times that Chips has actually occupied a chair at this dais was on the day that you hired me as your attorney.
Ah, interesting.
So Chips deemed that to be a matter of great importance, such that he occupied a chair on this dais.
I just didn't want to see it get screwed up.
Well, I hope it didn't get screwed up.
I'll let you know.
Well, we appreciate you looking out for us so that we don't screw up a lot of things. We appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate so much working with all of you, and with Ed and with Mickey. You've got a great group over here. You really do.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chips.
Thank you. All right, anything from the county administrator or from the county attorney?
Nope.
No.
Okay, well, then I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.